would not stop until you basically slowed the car down. Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, I mean, I think this is one of those that has things that I don't even know it exists. Like you could air condition your ass. You know.
Yeah, you probably have the seat thing.
You know, and I go to make a phone call when I get in it. Freaking starts ringing all over the damn the car.
Well, that'll be a saver for you. You can get off your phone and actually still be on your phone, but not on your phone.
You can have Siri read you your text.
And your steering wheel probably has a button that you can hold down that says text Craig, and then you just tell it what you
That's why. What need is that?
I mean, so that you don't murder people, or give them.
Welcome to SicEm365 Radio.
They go from the pistol. Duggan rolls, looking Rager's way, throws, and picked off. Braylon Arnold stepped right in front and made the pick for Baylor.
SicEm365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Got in trouble. Wide open. And now the foot race. The former Ram, Austin, for the touchdown.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
It's picked up, Gannon throws out right. Open ground, touchdown! Timmy Brown!
Here's David Smoke, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoke.
All right, here we go on this Thursday afternoon, week number 6.
Episode 29.
There's going to be a time. It's going to be like DiMaggio's hitting streak where we just forget it. I hope not. I hope we don't ever forget it. I hope we also never end the show by saying thank you for listening whenever you do, however long it might be, because it means a lot to you. I had a phone call today from somebody that owns a business, and he was like, oh, my God, I just downloaded the app from Allen Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. And they're thrilled with that. A couple of other businesses that reached out and just to say hi that are sponsors of us today. And we appreciate that because I'm always trying to stay in touch with them as well. Craig Smoke in studio, Paul Catalina. I'm David Smoke. Dylan Chapman is here as well. So did you hear, Paul, do you have the audio from E. Gordon Gee?
I do.
You do. It's not long. This is Craig, have you seen this?
I have not. I don't know what you guys are talking
It's
about.
a very short clip, and it's just part of, the last couple, 3 days we've kind of thrown out, okay, here's what might be sprouting, opening up or not. And then, even the news that there are some that are going to even extend whatever their barriers are. And this is for West Virginia. We've had him on the show we used to do 2 or 3 times. He was always fantastic. One of the first people, Guy, was to actually publicly support Baylor after their dark clouds and controversy. And so, do you have it?
Yep.
Here he is.
We are going to play football in the fall. I really do believe that, even if I have to suit up. And I've got my ankles taped. I'm ready to go in. But I think that, again, with everything, we're going to do it based upon what is safe, what is healthy for our fans, what is healthy for our student athletes. But I do believe that we will play football.
All right, that's it. He cut it off there. But that's an interview he was doing over Zoom or whatever it might be. So you have that. Louisiana, which was one of the hardest hit states, am I right?
Oh, very much so, yeah.
The high school football, whatever that is, their UIL, saying that they expect to be able to kind of get back to working out in about a month. Now, again, that doesn't mean they'll be able to. Things can change. You could have a flare-up, whatever. But that's a state that was devastated by coronavirus.
Yeah, really fast. I mean, Sean Payton got it. He's one of the famous people who got coronavirus. So, yeah, if they can get back to it, and again, I hope this all works out. We don't know. We're just kind of guessing everything that we're doing right now, or at least trying things, making educated guesses, I hope. But I hope this all works out. I mean, I'm glad people are trying.
Yeah, I'm glad that we're all trying as well. I don't know about you guys. Do you send a sense of people kind of just, being ready, like, all right, enough of the lockdown. Like, let's just get out and get back to it, and whatever happens, happens, because, like, this way we're living is just not going to cut it any longer. Like, I just get a sense of that there's a lot of people that are willing to do what we need to do and maybe go out a little bit less than normal, but it does seem now, like, especially seeing the numbers that people are seeing, it's like we're doing all of this for, like, 0.05% of the population. I don't want to get into the argument about one life and all of that. That's not my point. It's just that I think we've seen enough positivity in the numbers, even though there are new cases and all of that, that people are just like, all right, we know there's a risk, but we got to go out and live our lives now at this point. It's been 6 weeks, 7 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever long it's been.
Well, I think part of it is just that nobody can give us a deadline, or if
2 more weeks, Paul, 2 more weeks.
If they had just been able to, which I know is impossible, but I think people could have gripped for it if they said, okay, we're going to shut down for 4 months. Mm-hmm. If that was what it was. 4 months, we're going to shut down. That's what we have to do. And then after that, everything will probably be better, but we need 4 months. But since everything is so open-ended, people are like, well, let's just try it.
Right.
And that's what I think right now is they're just going to say, let's try it. Because here's the other thing I think we know now. Well, we know how we have to live if they have to start it up again.
Right.
So we know that, like, okay, lockdown again. Okay, everybody go back to what you were doing before.
Get my toilet paper, get my bottle of water,
yeah,
my
and
mask.
So there you go. I mean, so we know now.
Yeah, I just get the sense that, people have weighed the odds and they're ready to go up against the odds and see what happens to be able to get things like football back. And not just that, but you're looking at a lot of states who are passing these new rules, and I forget what state it was I was reading about earlier, but in the comment section, which is dangerous territory, obviously, but there was a couple small business owners who were crowing about how these new rules in whatever this particular state was are not really slanted towards the benefit of small businesses. And so, there's people in those positions, people like our sponsors that are concerned about their businesses getting back to it. So, there's a lot to weigh, obviously, but I do have more positivity than I've had at any other point that's been steadily growing. And I think that, for the most part, is the sentiment of a lot of people out there.
Yeah, I do too. And I saw, that Clay Travis and Barstool, those guys, they don't like each other. But I also think they feed off of each other and almost pick fights on purpose, kind of like some of these yap shows on the networks that say, you take A, I'll take B, even if I agree with A, just to do it.
It's the Rock and Stone Cold. They don't really like character-wise. It's like they don't really like each other, but they respect each other, and they kind of get what each other is doing, and so they play along. You know what I mean?
And so, but these two, they will go at each other in a visceral way.
Oh, yeah.
So Barstool today, and I don't usually, and if it happens to pop up on my timeline, he goes on and says, wait a minute. So initially we were hoping to just kind of flatten the curve. And now we're not able to do anything. Some people don't want us to do anything until there's an actual vaccine or a cure. We haven't cured cancer. I mean, he was putting it in perspective, because remember the big deal was, let's try to get to a point where we flatten the curve. And now for some that said, let's flatten the curve, now they want us to have a cure. Well, Of course we want a cure. So we're going to wait till there's a cure. So we don't wait for anything else to have a cure. So he was trying to say, we've done what you've asked us to do, and now you want us to do more?
Yeah, I think that's a pretty reasonable argument to have, or, because this is not the biggest thing is we need to just apply what we know to everyday life now. And again, it's a pretty simple thing. If the hospitals are ready to take on the people now, if production of ventilators and masks and all these things can go up. So if hospitals and medical facilities can take on the people who have COVID-19 while not having to, sacrifice any of the other help that they're giving to people who don't, then we're okay, because then we can treat it just like any other sickness.
Well, the good news is that you're starting to see things start to happen. The PGA Tour, you got the other things going on. I think even like maybe even road. There's things going on, right? So UFC has had a little bit, no fans or whatever, but I thought that was interesting. Two guys that don't like each other, but also probably feed off of each other. And I never thought of it. I'm not smart enough to think that way. But let's flatten the curve, and now we're flattening the curve, and that doesn't mean there aren't flare-ups. And now that's not good enough. Of
course.
We have to eventually
we're gonna
go back to living.
We're going to see, the thing is we're going to see more cases because now we have more available tests, but we have to let that data play itself out.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to let it play itself out so that we know really what's going on, and we don't have that now. So we got to let it play out. And then if there's
What do you mean play out?
what I mean play out is we got to figure out what those numbers mean. We can't just say this and this
So
and this.
you want to wait longer?
No.
No, he's
I
saying
want us to study the numbers. I want us to really know what the numbers mean. I don't want us to wait longer. I mean, I really don't. I want us to be smart about it. I don't want us to use statistics, whatever side of the aisle you sit on, to say this or this. I want to know what the numbers really mean.
Well, that's the problem, and I don't want to talk about this too much longer, honestly, but, that's part of the problem is you have one person, and I've seen examples of these types of people who say, we got to flatten the curve, we got to flatten the curve, we got to flatten the curve, and the cases spike, and they're like, oh my gosh, look at what we're doing by opening up, but not acknowledging and knowingly, intentionally not acknowledging the fact that we all know that that's going to go up because there's more testing. So people are playing with the numbers for political gain, for selfish, and that's what is disgusting about all of this is the number of selfish people using this to either
and not so sure that wasn't the case from the beginning.
Well, yeah, and there's that theory that's out there as well, and I think there's something to that to an extent. I don't think it's all for that sole purpose that's been put out there, but the bottom line is this: with what Dave Portnoy from Barstool had to say and what Clay Travis has been saying for a while now, it's like we just want the right information. And we're getting fed a load of BS from the left, from the right, from the center, from the back, from the front. And every time we do what we're supposed to do, we get told something different. And it's starting to feel, I think, to a lot of people out there, like we're just being told what to do to keep us under the thumb.
Yeah, of the government.
Yeah, and it's just
yeah.
And when you're telling us this and that, and then it changes every single day, and it's like, oh, it's all about flattening the curve. Oh, well, now it's about test, and now it's about this. And so it's always something, and that's what I think everybody's just kind of fed up.
That was the point. All right, so good points, good discussion. I love it because I agreed with him. Yet, let's get to the point where things flatten the curve. Then all of a sudden, that's not good enough. I understand you still got to be smart, but so also this we'll have Cooper Jones on in about 30 minutes or so from the Texas Sports Fame. They're going to kind of open up their doors. We'll tell you a little bit about that. Max Olson today at 4 did a long feature on theathletic.com on Matt Campbell. We'll have Mickey Spagnola at 4:30, DallasCowboys.com, and Hall of Famer and Heisman Trophy winner, another one of those we put the little check mark next to, and Tim Brown from Dallas, Texas, of course, high school there. He'll join us today at 5. And then at 5:20, Greg Tepper from Dave Campbell's Texas Football Magazine. He and I are a part of that committee, that UIL 100. They wanted to kind of keep that on the down low, but we've all been throwing in nominations, and we'll have him explain what they're trying to do. All right? So we have the Riverbend Liquor and Wine hotline, text line, that's going up. And in fact, Carl, Leon, and AJ, my buddy AJ at Allen Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat. I need to tell you a story about that in a moment. Carl Campbell. I will get to Carl's response. Leon. We'll get to Leon's response on the text line brought to you by Riverbend Liquor and Wine. And also on the chat room, the Willis Law Firm chat room. We'll get to that as well. Anything else? Oliver Luck, did you see this?
Yeah.
Wow. Paul, Craig, you saw this, right?
Yeah.
He signed a contract that might have Vince McMahon in the crosshairs.
No, it's not in the crosshair. I mean, he's suing Vince McMahon. he is suing Vince, or is it Vince McMahon suing him? I can't even keep track at this point. But yeah, he and Oliver Luck, Vince and Oliver Luck, are about to go toe-to-toe in a courtroom over his dismissal from the XFL. Oliver Luck apparently had, guys, guaranteed money well over $20 million in his contract. Guaranteed. And it might have been over 30, but it was up there. So anyways, with his dismissal as a result of the closing down of the XFL, Oliver Luck, as you might imagine, wants like $20 million that he was promised. And Vince McMahon is saying now, today, that Oliver Luck didn't properly handle things the way he should have towards the end of the XFL, that he wasn't spending enough time on the phone with league officials trying to sort out everything they were needing to sort out. Basically, Vince's lawsuit is saying that Oliver Luck wasn't doing his job, in particular towards the closing of the league. Oliver Luck has already fired back, and so this is going to continue on this lawsuit. And Oliver is saying, hey, I went home to Indiana, but I was on a conference call, or I think either he or Vince went to one of their homes in Indiana, and they were on conference calls. So this lack of communication is not true. And he kind of pointed out 2 or 3 other falsehoods in Vince's claims as well. So, yeah, they're going to go toe-to-toe over this money, and this is going to be, you would think.
He has texts and emails and things like that.
Yeah, you're right.
Because Vince McMahon's claim is that on March 13th, when the league got shut down, essentially Oliver Luck got shut down.
Yeah.
But he went back home to Indiana, where he lives, and he left Connecticut. And then he couldn't go back to Connecticut because they have very strict shelter at home.
Right.
So he stayed in Indiana, just like everybody else, sheltering at home, and according to him, working out of the house. And I can just tell you that we had a lot of experience in the short time this XFL was alive talking to Oliver Luck, heck, 3 or 4 times between the 3 of us. And it didn't seem to me that was a guy who was half-assing it.
No, not at all.
So radio interviews are one thing, doing the business of the league is another, but, he says, okay, March 13th, he stopped.
Do you know how many people, commissioners of conferences, are there? The conference commissioner's office for the Big East or for the ACC are in most likely their homes, like Oliver Luck in Indiana. That's what happened.
Yeah.
That's what's going on.
One of the other things that he alleged Vince said in his lawsuit was that despite direct orders to not sign Antonio Callaway, who was a troubled wide receiver who had bounced out of the NFL, that Luck did it anyways. Luck says, hey, I signed him when I felt like I could sign him, and then once you said that this was a no-go, then he got cut loose from the league. So Oliver's saying, I eventually did what you wanted me to. So he's got a counter-argument for everything, like lawsuits go, and it will be interesting because
two powerful guys.
Yeah,
right?
between 2 powerful guys. I'll tell you right now, Vince's business is hurting in a major way with what happened with the XFL and what's going on with professional wrestling right now, because it's not just empty crowds affecting shows. It's that industry as a whole. Due to coronavirus, whereas it was at a peak about 2 years ago, it feels like it's dying. It really does. It feels like there's about 1 million real fans out there, and the ratings reflect that every week, that the numbers are getting lower and lower. And it's not coronavirus related. This has been going on as a trend now for a few years. And so you're starting to wonder if that's just not an entertainment outlet that's starting to die, at least the way that we knew it, and maybe even more niche than it was previously. But the point being that Vince is hurting, and I don't think he can really afford to go lose $25 million in a loss. I mean, he can afford it, but it's going to hurt.
Let's break and come back with more.
Yeah, but things are different now than they were in the 90s.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, just how it is. And I think they still have the same similar business.
We'll hear from more of you. Thank you, Carl, TJ, also AJ and Leon on the text line, brought to you by Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Also, you can hit us up on Twitter at Paul Catalina, at Craig Smoke, at David Smoke, and you can call us if you'd like to get feedback from you. We'd love it. 254-339-1122, that number. That's the number to call to get on with us. SicEm365 Radio. Live crawfish is back. The 30-pound bags of live crawfish, as delicious as you can imagine, back at Waco Custom Marketplace at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco. $3 a pound, 30-pound live crawfish bags are available. You order by Thursday at noon. You can pick up your customized order anytime on Friday afternoon until 6 p.m. And the drive-thru now open at Waco Custom Marketplace Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. You can still order what you want from their butcher shop, including beef and poultry, seafood, and also pork. And, of course, their bakery. You can order from their bakery. You can go online, WacoCustomMarketplace.com, or go by the drive-thru. Waco Custom Marketplace, live crawfish available Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 6.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We are open to support our community through this crisis. When you need an MRI, ask your doctor for an Ideal MRI. Visit us at idealmri.com or call us at 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and 2-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Our communities are facing unprecedented times. At Boozer's Jewelers, we care about you and your family. If you're like me, your home has unwanted or unused jewelry lying around. They can have value, and that means we can turn that jewelry into instant cash. This is a great way to get the most value from your unwanted jewelry. At Boozer's Jewelers, we buy all kinds of unused jewelry. So give us a call and let us give you peace of mind and cash for your unwanted or unused jewelry.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Tom Albers, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If your financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Tom Albers, 4301 Lakeshore Drive, 254-776-7605. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
This is SicEm365 Radio.
ACOT. Too strong. Gillespie on the offensive glass. Slips underneath Manic. They've got it done.
The SicEm365 Radio call-in line segment is sponsored by Rudy's Country Store and Barbecue, where curbside pickup and drive-thru are now available. Next in line.
At DCarter299 on Twitter. Smokey, by the way, when Tim Brown comes on, I've got a story I want to share so you guys know my attention span. He wants me to, I want to share this with Tim. He'll be on today with us, the Hall of Famer Heisman Trophy winner at 5. So Dylan, please. Now, so this guy named Blake Snell, and I want to read Carl's text as well on the Riverbend Liquor and Wine text line. Tampa Bay pitcher. I knew this was going to blow up a little bit. I read a little bit of it. By the way, for whoever just tried to call, Paul hung up on you. It's 254-339-1122.
It didn't even get to a full ring.
The 27-year-old saying the risk is way the hell higher and the amount of money I'm making is way lower. Why the hell would I think about doing that? Now, he popped this off, just not worth it as far as playing baseball and taking a pay cut. All right? Now, I think he came back and said, I meant, honestly, it's just scary to risk my life to get COVID, as well as not knowing and spreading it to others. I just want everyone to be healthy. Now, he said that later. All that money is gone. Now I'm risking my life. So did he backtrack here because he got blown up on social media? Because that's what we do in America.
Or maybe he just got more information and realized it's a bigger deal than he initially thought it was. I feel like that happened to probably the majority of people out there, that they weren't taking it all that serious. Oh, this is just like bird flu or, whatever else we've encountered over time. And I think maybe he just got more information. Maybe somebody in his family had a personal encounter with it. But no, he's definitely flip-flop his opinion, because he was saying back during spring training, like, I don't care. I'm not that worried about it. If I get it, I get it. I don't, I don't. And that's like a direct quote from what he said. If I get it, I get it. If I don't, I don't. That was him like a month and a half ago. And here he is now, and he's complaining because if MLB were to come back, he'd be making less than the millions he's already making. And I get it.
Set to make $7 million.
Yeah, so he'd only get like $5 million.
50-50 split of reduced revenues, of course. Still $3.5 million. And I asked this question.
That 50-50 split is not going to happen, though. Like, that's the first offer the owners made. The players have much more power.
Yeah.
It's
Let
not
me
going to
ask
happen.
you this. In baseball, they do.
I mean, the players have way more power.
Yeah, in football, this would be they'd get 10%.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. If you had a job, and we all three have been through something during the early stages of what COVID-19 was in Texas, would you, if you had a job, keep your job if you were told you had to work the same amount of hours, but you get paid half of what you were getting paid, or would you rather be unemployed and get unemployment checks and not have to work?
I would not keep that job most of the time, because then I would get unemployed. I would try to find another one. And because again, like, what's the benefit to me to work the same for half? And,
Are we talking that job specifically?
Well,
or just a job in general.
And honestly, the two of you got paid so little anyway,
right.
as did most everybody else. I was obviously in a much different position as a manager.
But like, look, I'll just tell you from personal experience, I've had, and not just that job, but other jobs I've had in the past. When I was younger.
Yes or no?
Were they? No, I wouldn't, because that is telling the boss, the man, like, who's ever in charge, oh no, I'm worth this much.
Okay, fine. That's
what you have to do.
What would you do?
Yeah, if it was that job we're talking about, definitely no, and just a job in general, no.
Okay.
Because, no.
Dylan?
No.
You would not, if you had a job during this situation and you were told you can keep the job, and of course, even in your previous situation, there were no benefits at all, other than the benefit was we're allowed to walk through the front door.
Yeah, like that was. So, but we should clarify, because some people are in different situations. I'm a single guy without kids, so I can afford to do that. You know, if I was a father and a husband, then I would do whatever I had to do to put food on the table.
You have 2 children.
I have no children.
Okay, so Dylan.
I agree with what Paul's saying.
Get a little closer, a little bit closer.
I agree with what Paul's saying, where you could make more off unemployment, and then you can go back and show you're looking for another job, or you can go back and make a full
But you'd
salary.
want a job. But you would rather go.
But I'd rather just get the unemployment and show that I'm looking for another one, and then get something else that's still going to pay me my full wage.
Yeah. That's what I love about Ashley and Brian and Colt, is that when we had our situation flare up on March the 18th, these guys, knowing what was about to hit and was hitting, fearlessly got in touch with us and said, let's figure this out.
Well,
and never forget it.
And here's what I think. I think, and it's a lesson that I think people need to learn. I'm going to hammer it home. And I've learned it painfully over 15 years. The more you're willing to do something for a price and not stick up for yourself. And I'm not saying, like, everybody should go hold out of their jobs right now like a quarterback on the franchise tag.
Start a revolution around Waco.
Yeah. What I'm saying is that you should be okay with telling someone you're worth this much. And if they tell you, okay, here's more job responsibilities for the same amount, because there were many times at the radio station where I was asked to do more, and I said, okay, am I going to get a raise? And he said, no. I said, then I'd rather not do it, and then it didn't happen. Because I was like, I don't want to do that. That's a lot more. I'm already doing a whole lot during the day, and you want me to carve out some time to do something for something I don't even care about.
All right. TJ on the text line. Hey, fellas, we had to take a 10% pay cut to salaries. There were 62 of us in Texas. Now there are 29. I took the pay cut, still work same hours. I got kids. One is 2 years old, the other is 7, so I got to keep it. Well, that's
totally
a 10.
Get it.
TJ, thanks for giving us the insight.
But you're talking, and so 10%. That I'd think about it a little bit differently, because that's, yes, a dip, but it's not enough of a dip where, I mean, you're definitely affected, TJ. Don't get me wrong and try to pretend like I'm in your shoes, but it's not 50% like you were kind of talking about. Like, it's half. Like, I think that's not even a question. 10%, maybe you think a little bit more, but he's doing what he's got to do, and I respect that.
I'm going to ask TJ on the air. TJ, respond to us on the text line of 254-339-1122. If you got benefits, that makes a difference, too.
Yeah, definitely.
If you are getting health benefits, which a lot of small businesses don't offer anymore, or you are getting any other, like, perks or other type of, things like that, yeah, it would make a difference. So thanks for the feedback. Leon, I keep on saying, I said Leon a couple of times, and we mentioned him. Carl, this is when we were discussing about trying to branch out and get out and see if we can get – Craig, I think it depends on where you live. Austin is having more cases, and they're extending things. I think the biggest issue is that in big cities, it hits hard due to the number of people. that live there. But in the rural areas, because they naturally social distance, cases aren't there. Once a cure is there, this is then a moot point. Lastly, it's all about power and money. Politicians want you not to work and let them give you money every month so they retain power over you.
Well, and that's a very interesting, point there, because that's something that might be going on right now, especially from certain things. And I do think that a lot of this is we've got to stop letting the whole country be affected by what's happening in the. You have to. That's why I like people reacting to their own city. This is what's going on in our place, so this is what we're going to do. Los Angeles and New York are different. People are stacked on top of each other everywhere you go. Right. New York especially. New York is so crowded. You can't.
Well, what is China?
I mean, exactly. And then why did it start and spread there so fast? I mean, you're stacked on top of each other. New York has to do this right now. They have to, because there's so many people and it'll get overwhelmed so fast.
Okay.
But does
if this
Omaha,
was going on in Sioux City, Idaho, would we care about, if New Yorkers, would they care about it?
Probably not.
No, of course not.
And I'm saying there's some tragic things that have happened in New York. But if it's like New York or L.A. or Chicago, my God.
But we can't.
But if it's Omaha, like you mentioned.
Yeah, my point is we have to, again, and this is something we've not done lately as a nation, we have to make all of our politicians work harder from top to bottom. Whether it's the President of the United States or the mayor of Sheboygan, Wisconsin, you've got to make decisions for your city and not just go, hey, what's this one doing?
254-339-1122. Is Blake Snell being selfish with what he says? That he didn't want to play baseball to take a pay cut because the risk is the hell higher and the amount of money I'm making is lower because he's going to play, like you said, half the games. He does then acknowledge later on he understands the risk. Now, it's hard. We always sometimes look at people when they make more money than the normal human being. If somebody's making 40, 50, 80, 100,000 or 20,000. But just because an athlete makes more doesn't mean they have to sacrifice more, does it?
No.
Just because they make money that we look at and gawk at, go, my God. That doesn't mean they should be more.
That just means it's a bad look for him saying, well, I'm not. But also.
Is it? He's got a supply and demand.
It is. It is. It does look a little bit bad for some people. I'm not saying for me because I didn't take it like this. But when, we do have to acknowledge there's more unemployment right now than ever before, and this dude's complaining about a few million that he's not going to make, but he's still going to make about $5 million. That is hard for some people to digest. Even if the point is not that is how some people view it. They just go, oh, rich athlete who's complaining about making $5 million. No, what he's complaining about is only getting half of what he was supposed to get, and, it just so happens that he makes millions of dollars.
But here's what we do, though. Because some guy has a right arm or a left arm or has an ability to shoot baskets or whatever, it's like we put them on a pedestal too much anyway just because.
Sure.
But we ask them to do what we wouldn't do.
Yeah. No, and
because they make a certain amount of money.
But if Ian Snell had said, listen, I make $7 million, 3.5's not going to put me in the poorhouse, but there are a ton of players who don't make that much money, who have families, that's probably going to hurt them. Even though the league minimum is pretty high, you're talking about top to bottom. I mean, minor league baseball is not going to happen at all this year. I mean, if any baseball happens, it's going to be Major League Baseball, and they'll figure out something for the AAA and AA, so that those guys are essentially in extended spring training all the time, so that when people get hurt, they can move up and down.
From more on one of the text lines from the Riverbend Liquor and Wine text line. By the way, I took a 10% cut. There were 62 of us in Texas. Now there are 29. So he's obviously in a very rare business.
That's
or
TJ,
rare,
right?
Yes. Yes, I have full benefits, vehicle, phones, uniform, cleaning. Even at half, I'm not sure I could let it go. Even if they didn't do 10% but 50%, I couldn't let it go. I get that with all of that. 9 years you expect a raise, not a decrease in pay. I hate that people can't work. And the line of the food bank at the Cotton Bowl is insane, really puts things in perspective.
And Snell later on went to tell the Tampa Bay Times, because this obviously went pretty crazy, that he wanted to clarify to them that he understands how a statement may have been perceived. That's how all these things start. But
it's a PR. Someone got to him. You need to go back. Yeah.
He insisted that his primary concern was about the health risks associated with reopening. He said he wants to make sure everyone involved with baseball and anyone they might come into contact with is safe. So that's what he says his main message was actually supposed to be.
If they take half, are the owners going to allow that they make less?
Of course not.
Yeah. Well, the owners are saying we're going to make less, so we have to, because they're not getting anything at the gate.
Yeah. It is a bad look, though. It is a bad look.
So I mean,
I just knew that as soon as I saw that story, I was, oh my God! Remember that T-1, 2, 3, or 3, 2, 1? Here comes the retraction.
But here's the downside to being an athlete too. Yes, the millions of dollars and all that, but I'm pretty sure that he was just sitting around playing video games, streaming, and talking to people when this happened. So he's just talking to like some 22-year-old dude in like North Dakota.
Could have been Dylan.
While he's playing, the new Call of Duty, and somebody randomly asked him like, "Hey, are you going to play next year for less money and have a season?" No, I'm not going to do. And so he's just in that mood. But that's what we do. And so
You're right.
he's changed up his phrasing, but it's a legit question.
Carl, I already read Carl's response. Here's another one that's just straight to me. I work at what would be kind of considered a it's got groceries, and it also has like you can get like bed sheets, whatever. Okay,
big box store.
That boss, that business lost employees because they made more on unemployment.
Oh, I can see that. Absolutely. Yeah.
But is that a culture? That's smart. But is that also?
No. I don't think
we have
it
done
is.
that 60 years ago.
I don't know, because we wouldn't have had it 60 years ago. But
the Depression.
Yeah. Well, that was longer than 60 years ago.
I know. I'm talking about.
I mean, 60 years ago, people were going to take anything they could get from the government because everything was so bad.
80 years ago.
Yeah. I mean,
60 years ago, we were like fresh off World War II.
Yeah.
So
I think, so you look at 80 years ago, yeah, I mean, people wouldn't have taken more on unemployment. There was no such thing. I mean, they were just bread lines, and that's how. But part of the problem is we need to evolve how we pay and how we do things in this country so that people don't do that. So, yes, it's bad that people would do that, but why do they do that? They don't just do that because that's the government's idea, and the government's not going to keep that up forever. Those benefits will get cut as soon as the crisis is over.
You don't think there's some people that are taking unemployment because they're lazy?
But I don't think that's the majority. Yeah, I don't think that's the majority at all. I think that's a strong minority. Yeah. I think that's a minority.
I don't know if you have facts to back either one of our sides.
I don't think we do, but I
think that there's so many people now that want things for free and expect them that they are almost in a way not wanting this to end.
Oh, I definitely think that's certain people. Now, are you getting that feeling because you're reading Twitter?
No.
Or are you getting that feeling just because that's just how the world is?
No, I feel like there are a lot of people that like this.
I'll tell you my feeling. People. I think that this has shown how jacked up things that we do in this country are. From top to bottom, all sides. We don't do things that make sense across the board. And this has exposed how flawed we do things. And we're not even close to figuring it out.
What does that have to do with someone being lazy?
Well, okay, so there's those lazy people, but there's also people who, you know what, had to make a business decision because it was better for their families. So if I can make more on unemployment than I can working at this big box store, then they have to do that right now because things are nuts.
That's not my question is how many people that are taking unemployment hope they can do that for the rest of their lives and never have to wake up before 7 o'clock?
I'm sure there was a larger chunk now than there was before this all hit because they didn't think it was possible, but I don't think that's the majority.
Do you think that there are people actually rooting that this never ends?
Oh, I think there's no.
Because they're getting things for free as long as they keep getting their check for 1,200 hours.
I don't think that's many people because I think eventually they'll go nuts. I think most people are better than that, but I do think there's a chunk of people that want this, that love this.
I think, again, we're talking about such a minority of people when we talk about those people because I don't think that's the majority by any means. As far as your question about people taking unemployment, one of the things that this has shown, and I don't know how much longer we're going to talk about this, but it goes to show how poorly paid so many people in this country are and how bosses get away with paying people way less than they ever should have to while they reap all the benefits. And I think that's something we've always kind of realized what we see, especially now, especially if you can go on unemployment and make more money than you were actually doing working a real job, which I don't know how much I would have drawn on unemployment, but I'm telling you, it probably would have been close to what I was making.
Yeah. So, and here's the one thing about it that, because I'm not saying that either side is right. So if the government in a week and a half can pass a plan,
let's not lose focus on what we're talking about.
I know. I'm keep it simple
because I don't want to get into. We're getting into more politics.
But in a week and a half, can pass something that can make more money for you not to work than your company can have to have you work. Then The government's been doing something wrong, and the company's been doing something wrong. So we're all wrong. Figure it out and do it right.
When we come back, Cooper Jones, he's the executive director of the Texas Sports Hall of Fame. They're starting to get back to allowing people to look and maybe reminisce. What we've tried to do a lot on this show for the last 6 weeks is, for example, Tim Brown today at 5 o'clock on the Heisman and Notre Dame and the Raiders and Hall of Fame and all that, and days in high school in Dallas. They're about to kind of let those doors back open. We'll tell you more about it. He's next on SicEm365 Radio.
Alan Samuels presents the return of 0%. It's back. 0% for 72 and no payments for up to 120 days. Choose your car, truck, or SUV and get 0% financing with no payments for 120 days through Chrysler Capital. New Rams, new Jeeps, and new Dodge SUVs and minivans. Shop safely at our dealership. Shop and buy online, and we deliver test drives to you. Your friend in the car business. Alan Samuels Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one, commercial, farm and ranch, or residential. Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction with a team of 24 experienced agents who are excited about serving you. Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm, welcome home.
Texas board-certified personal injury trial lawyer and Baylor alum David Willis and Baylor alum Parker Willis are ready to help if you or a loved one has been wrongfully injured in an auto accident, SUV rollover, industrial accident, 18-wheeler crash, or were seriously injured by a defective product or recall drug. Call them for a confidential and free case consultation at 1-800-GOT-HURT or visit them at texastriallawyer.com. Principal office located in Houston, Texas.
Do you love Friday Night Lights? Would you like to have a bigger role than just watching the action to ensure the games are played fairly and safely? The Waco football chapter of the Texas Association of Sports Officials, or TASO, can make that happen. The 2020 Texas high school football season is right around the corner, and we need you to be a part of it. There's a shortage of officials across the state in all sports, and you can help. If you love the game and want to be a part of the solution, you can help our local student athletes continue to participate in games they love. Never officiated before? Don't worry. Waco Football Chapter can help you and prepare you to make the right call. And right now, Introduction to Football Officiating class is accepting registrations. Make your first grade call today by looking us up and contacting us on Facebook at Waco Football Chapter or at our website, wacofootballchapter.com. Find out more about the Waco Football Chapter of the Texas Association of Sports Officials, or TASO. Go to wacofootballchapter.com.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Hi, this is Conley football coach Shane Anderson. I'm a proud listener and supporter of the all-new SicEm365 radio show with David Smoke, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoke.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine has their easy-to-access drive-thru open and convenient and clean in-store location on the corner of Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street in Waco. Riverbend Liquor has the best and most extensive variety of craft beer selections in Waco, and Balcones whiskey, including single malt, pot still, baby blue, French oak, rye, and brimstone. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, family-owned and operated, and a hidden gem in Waco on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street. And find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physician of Baylor Athletics. Our doctors specialize in the diagnosis and treatment of any and all sports-related injuries, celebrating over a decade of service in Central Texas. Our doctors are equipped to handle a wide range of issues, whether it's your foot or ankle, orthopedic spine care, your hand or wrist, knee and shoulder pain, or if you're in need of our arthritis or total joint clinic. Trust the doctors that Baylor trusts. Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics. Our goal is to get you back in the game.
This is SicEm365 Radio.
It's picked up. Gannon throws out right. Open Gannon. Touchdown! Timmy Brown.
The SicEm365 Radio Live Guest VIP Hotline is sponsored by Stonewood Dental. We are all in this together.
All right, so earlier today, Paul, you and I, we got a text from Cooper, Executive Director, Texas Sports Hall of Fame. I also had a couple of text messages back and forth with Jay Black as well. They're going to open up. They're going to reopen the Texas Sports Hall of Fame tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. It's right, of course, right there on I-35, just off I-35, just on the edge of the Baylor campus. Cooper Jones joins us. Paul Catalina, Craig Smoke, David Smoke on SicEm365 Radio. All right, so tell me about the decision-making. You've released this. What's been the reaction to this?
Well, it's great to be on with you and Craig and Paul. Good to visit with y'all again. Glad you're safe and healthy more than anything. And that's really been the driving decision for us. We had an executive committee meeting a little bit earlier this week with our board of trustees, and we've taken some pretty significant steps, some best-in-class practices we've seen amongst museums, not in the state of Texas, but across the nation in terms of safety and sanitary restrictions that we need to be able to check those boxes. We've been able to do that. Our staff is safe and healthy, and with the Governor Abbott's direction a week ago, we're excited to get back open to the public and let folks have something to come out and do here right off University Parks Drive, as you mentioned, just off I-35.
Cooper, I think it's important to note right off the bat that you guys have it's a gigantic facility for those who haven't been there. It's huge. I mean, it's enormous. So it'd be really easy to keep 6 feet apart from someone else as you walk through the museum with your family.
We are not a phone booth, Paul. That is exactly right. At 36,000 square feet, we are up to about 125, 135 guests at any one time in our facility, according to the fire code and per the fire chief here in Waco. And so we've got the ability to have more than just one or two people in at a time. We've obviously taken the precautions. Our touch screens, some of those high traffic areas are going to be down for the next couple of weeks just as we assess and make sure that we're being safe not only for our guests but our staff. But 95% of the museum's open, and people really enjoy getting a chance to come back out and see it or see it for the first time.
Cooper, how much conversation was there about like all of the precautionary measures and things? You know, obviously we're living in a different world now. How much did you guys have to discuss, you know, things like you said, like the touch screens and sanitize, you know, all that kind of jazz that we are now having to have in our lives on a daily basis?
Craig, it's amazing. I mean, think about this. We've got a gift shop, and one of the things that you're hearing health experts across the country talking about is little Johnny who wants the T-shirt, then he wants the miniature Baylor helmet, then he wants the marshmallow candy bar, and then he wants the water. Well, that's 5 different touch points that, you know, really, quite frankly, before the last 2 months ago, none of us were thinking about. Well, we've gone to a now completely touch-free gift shop experience. You walk in, our guest services coordinator's there. We've got everything behind plexiglass. You tell us what you want, we'll be able to pull it down. But gone are the days where you can come up and touch the 2X and the 1X and the large and just see what it looks like. We will be there at some point, but right now we're not. That's just one example of probably 25 different ones that we had through our exhibit, and especially now that we're talking with sports journalists. Here's a great one that we didn't think of until probably 3 weeks ago. In our area, we've got some of the all-time classic Southwest Conference calls that you can come in, put on a set of headphones, and hear current tips walk you through the game of the week. We can't do that anymore, and that's certainly frustrating for us. We'll have some of the video running on a loop, but you're not able to pull up specific games yet at this point. Again, one of the 25 different things that went through some of our thought processes before we could reopen.
What are some things that you were hoping to do this year that were delayed because of what we've been through?
You know, Smoke, the biggest thing for us has so far been the induction banquet. As you know, sitting on the selection committee for us, and an amazing job you've been doing. We've got 7 individuals sitting out there now that are in a little bit of limbo. And for us, it's not just as easy as going back to the convention center here in Waco. They've been wonderful to work with. We can get the date. The issue is when, as a society, as a city, as a state, are we going to be able to have more than 150, 200, 300 people in a room? As the three of you know, we've had upwards of 800, 900 people sometimes for our induction banquets downtown at the convention center. You know, it's not going to work for us if we have up to 500 people in a room. We're going to have to think of some things if that's our future. So we're really waiting. That's one of the big items this year. Obviously, we've had to push back our Lamar Hunt Lifetime Achievement Award event. That's going to be something happening down in San Antonio honoring Peter Holt and the Holt family. with San Antonio Spurs. That was an event that we were looking at this summer that's obviously going to be pushed back into the fall at some point. Now, we are moving forward with our golf tournament. One of the things that we've been real fortunate with is this 27th year of the Bob Lilly Celebrity Golf Tournament. We will have that June 19th and June 20th, moving forward with having that tournament. There'll be some tweaks to our night before event, which is difficult for us because Paul Catalina is the all-star of the night before Friday night, June 19th party. We may have to alter his role somewhat. We might be doing that outside, but we will have the golf tournament. We will have the celebrities coming back. And we've already got about 15 to 20 of our golf celebrities and Hall of Fame inductees who've already reached out saying, guys, I'm going cabin crazy here. I want to get out and I want to play in the golf tournament.
Hey, you just tell me where it is, Cooper. You know I'm there, so I'm ready to go at a drop of a hat. So, but yeah,
no question. And a free meal adjoining with that, right, Paul?
Yeah, it's great.
That's right.
Again, we literally just talked about not taking a job for less than you're worth, and you just ratted mine out, which is food. So,
I'm not a very good friend.
But Cooper, that is a great event. And those are things that people can get out. So, what would you recommend for a family to come in to do it? If they were going to come in and walk through the hall, what's the best, number of people way to go about it if they're going to come in?
Certainly, Paul. I think what we've told people is we are encouraging but not requiring people to wear safety masks or gloves when they come in. Every 60 minutes, every high traffic area and restroom in our facility gets cleaned. So we've already done the full-scale deep cleaning Orkin service that came out a week ago. We're adding on top of that the things that we've heard are best in class. For a family to come out, 2, 4, 6, 8 family members, that's fine. We've got certain restrictions set up in terms of our check-in when you come in and walk through our Hall of Fame exhibits. So we're hoping that folks will be able to follow along and practice that spacing as well. But it is safe. We are safe. We want folks to come out. And again, we're not hosting large groups at this point, but families of just about any size are going to be able to come in and enjoy the facility at this point.
All right, so the Bob Lilly Golf Tournament, the Bob Lilly Classic, is June the 19th and 20th. They can go online and register for that. Also, of course, the banquet that would have honored the Texas Sports Hall of Fame in late March, I believe it was. Is that canceled or just pushed back?
So we've just pushed that back.
Okay.
We're still planning on having that in 20.
All right. That was supposed to be in late March. And the media event, which is rare because, as you know, Cooper, there was the original. You mentioned Kern Tips and Blackie Sherrod and names like that. And then all of a sudden, we have this new group that's going in and guys that are a guest and analyst on this show. And that was going to be this year. And that took almost had to force those guys to say, yes, I'll be a part of it, because they didn't want to disturb the original class of the Media Hall of Fame. So that's also been pushed back, correct? Or that's been postponed?
It has been. We've pushed that back. We still have the intention of having that event. We're talking with some other of your colleagues on that selection group just to determine, is that a end of this year, beginning of next year event? Mm-hmm. You're right, David. We hadn't had it in 14 years. And when you put that first group in, and those names, when you look at Jenkins and Lundquist and Sherrod, like you talked about, and the others that are there, Mickey, that's getting close to the Mount Rushmore of sports journalism. And so this group with Brad Sham and Randy Galloway and others, Shereen Williams, have been wonderful. They did not want to do this. They appreciate having the effort to go forward with a Hall of Fame class. And we've got some guardrails in place now that we won't be doing this every year. This is an every 5 to 8 year process so that we don't dilute the value of those Media Hall of Fame members.
One of the things that we were affected by, of course, it would have been yesterday we would have honored the Academic All-Stars of May 13th. And obviously that's going to be just now this year. The student athletes, the parents, the sponsors all understood that we are just honoring them with a full-page ad coming out on Sunday, along with what we send to them. But it's good to know. Did you get any, this didn't go out, but just recently, I'm just curious, I think it's a fair question, did you get anybody call you up angry because you were opening up?
Dave, that's a great question. And so far we've not. I think what we've experienced are some of the questions that we've talked through here today on the phone people just getting an understanding of what are the steps that you've taken as an organization at the Hall of Fame to make it safe for me to come in. And once we're able to go through that process with people, folks are really not only comfortable with that, but I think they're looking forward to Friday, possibly Saturday, coming out and getting a chance to be outside and then coming through to the Hall of Fame. And again, if they haven't been before, coming and checking us out. But for those of the people that have, maybe it's been 2, 3, or 4 years, we've had some changes here in the Hall, and that'll be unique for them. I think they're looking forward to it. So far, we haven't had anyone upset. I think people are really optimistic about what the next couple of days holds for the Hall of Fame.
Cooper Jones, President, CEO of the Texas Sports Hall of Fame. Again, if you did not hear at the beginning, tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, the Texas Sports Hall of Fame will reopen, and they are going through all the CDC-recommended COVID-19 protocols, including sanitizing high-touch areas throughout the facility every 60 minutes. It's a massive facility, so there's plenty of room. There is absolutely plenty of room. Hey, Cooper, good luck. Congratulations. Thanks for your time.
So thanks so much, guys. Appreciate you having me on.
Cooper Jones of the Texas Sports Hall of Fame. So there's something, let's say you've been in one of those, man, I got to get out of the house. Mm-hmm. And if you want to, and if there's something you want to do that maybe you've either done before or haven't, there's an opportunity.
I wanted to pass along, and that is great news on the Texas Sports Hall of Fame, and thanks to Cooper for laying out what they've done, and it sounds like they're going to be on the up and up, as far as keeping everything sanitized and cleaned and all of that, so you won't have any worries there. But NASCAR has announced a new fresh slate of their racing schedule, the second installment in their return to racing, and they have outlined races that will be taking place May 30th and 31st at Bristol Motor Speedway, June 6th through 7th in Atlanta, June 10th, the big Martinsville race. Down at Homestead, Miami, the 13th and 14th, they've got 4 races planned, and then Talladega, 2 races on Saturday, and the NASCAR Cup Series on Sunday. That's the June 20th and 21st weekend. So Bristol, Atlanta, Martinsville, Homestead, Miami, and Talladega, obviously all big tracks for the NASCAR brand and the racing brand, and all these races will be on Fox. So that's starting up here in 2 weeks, this second wave of NASCAR's return to racing. Obviously, they're not packing 100,000 people in the stands, but it's live action, and that's what everybody's craving right now. Well, I think most are in the thought of, let's get sports back, and then we'll worry about when we get the fans back. So that's kind of how I feel where people are. So NASCAR is zooming on back.
Just another little example of some things that are starting to happen to close out this 3 o'clock hour.
Naturally socially distanced, too.
Yeah, the most socially distanced.
People are doing it slow.
Unless they're bumping, they're in a car.
If it's somebody's 8th birthday, they're doing it really slow through the neighborhood.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
true.
You know.
So our good friend, the mailman, Corby Simpkins, sent this to us this morning. Why was Cameron High School named C.H. Yo High School? Well, apparently there were, the C.H. and his wife Caroline wanted to give back to the city and wanted to, basically they built a brand new high school, C.H. Yo High School. And every second Thursday in May, studies are suspended at Yo High School. An appropriate ceremony is held at the gravesite, and this day is known as Yo Day. And that's what they're doing. In fact, I believe it was earlier today at the Performing Arts parking lot. So that's just a little note about a local high school, and every second Thursday, which is today, in Cameron, Texas, of one of the great high schools, football programs, and much more in the state of Texas. When we come back, Max Olson, theathletic.com, on his lengthy feature on Iowa State head coach Matt Campbell, Mickey Spagnola, 4:30, Hall of Fame and Heisman Trophy winning Tim Brown at 5, and then Greg Tepper on the UIL 100 and what that is, all today on SicEm365 Radio.
Waco, Texas, our city of remarkable growth and opportunity with an even brighter future ahead. What makes it all work is our people living, working, and growing together. And we're proud to be from here, helping and serving the community we call home. We are the First National Bank of Central Texas, taking great pride in being locally owned and operated. Come see us at any of our 5 convenient locations. That's the First National Bank of Central Texas, member FDIC, and equal housing lender.
Y'all listen up. Let me tell you something about group meals from Rudy's Barbecue. It's got all you need for all the folks you gotta feed, smoked meat, sides, and more. There's everything down to the tablecloth, just like the one that you see at the store. And a bridal shower, it's better than flowers. And a long-distance meeting, it'll pass the hours. It'll feed all the cousins at a family function. It's better than potluck at a church luncheon. Next time you need to feed 10 or more, call and order a Rudy's Group meal.
Next in line.
Hi, this is Tyler Holcomb, Athletic Director and Head Football Coach at Bishop Louis Riker. And you're listening to SicEm365 Radio with David Smoke, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoke.
This is Waco, and this is Boozer's Jewelers. When locals want luxurious jewelry and at a competitive price, they come here. This is Brad Boozer. He's the owner of Boozer's Jewelers. Boozer's is the premier wedding ring store. They specialize in loose diamonds and wedding rings. At Boozer's, they have 7 jewelry counters dedicated to wedding rings and diamonds only. They also specialize in heirloom jewelry, custom jewelry, watches, and much, much more. So what are you waiting for? Stop on in today and discover why the locals trust Boozer's for their jewelry.
Texas board-certified personal injury trial lawyer and Baylor alum David Willis and Baylor alum Parker Willis are ready to help if you or a loved one has been wrongfully injured in an auto accident, SUV rollover, industrial accident, 18-wheeler crash, or were seriously injured by a defective product or recalled drug. Call them for a confidential and free case consultation at 1-800-GOT-HURT or visit them at texastriallawyer.com, principal office in Houston, Texas.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas. Our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. In today's world, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs. We even offer financing. Everything's included in the price, and more importantly, you'll not get a bill in the mail later on. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule an appointment safely from home, online in minutes at idealmri.com, or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI. And please remember to follow CDC guidelines and practice social distancing. Stay home, except for the essentials, and be safe, and together we'll get through this at idealmri.com.
This is SicEm365 Radio.
Now Burrow going to launch downfield for Chase. Who's got it? Touchdown, LSU.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house. Here's David Smoke, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoke.
SicEm365 Radio, Dylan Chapman running the podcast and many other parts of this show. Of course, Paul Catalina is spinning the records, running the mothership. Craig Smoke, David Smoke, and we appreciate you listening. And Ideal MRI, our title sponsor of SicEm365 Radio. And this hour, as you heard, brought to you by Boozer's Jewelers. Thanks to Brad Boozer and his great staff on Lake Air and Valley Mills in Waco. We'll have Max Olson here momentarily from theathletic.com. He's here. Joins us now on SicEm365 Radio. Max, I was reading up and down the article on Matt Campbell and his lineage of how he arrived where he is today. How did his career start?
Yeah, really, really interesting, beginning for Matt Campbell, a guy that really, we're doing a series on The Athletic about coaches in their first jobs, and I wanted to talk with him because a lot of people know about his background with Mount Union in college ball and all that. But, his career really began in 2003 as a GA at Bowling Green. He got there at a really prime time for Bowling Green. They won 11 games in 2003. Urban Meyer had just left the program in great shape, and he got to work with all sorts of coaches who ended up being successful at the college and NFL level. And this is a guy at 23 years old who just put in, really grinded for 2 years for cheap pay and not great opportunities and all that. just to get in the door. And, really things really took off from there, and wrote about how that GA job really set him up for everything else. He got to be an OC at Mount Union at 25 years old, went back to Bowling Green, got fired, but then landed with Tim Beckman at Toledo, and the rest was history for him there. So we really kind of was able to dig into how a guy like that, who's risen so quickly in the coaching ranks, only 40 years old still, what's it take to get this far this quickly, and really a lot of hard work and a lot of good luck.
Max, what will it take for him to ultimately turn down all these people who are going to continually come at him year in and year out?
Yeah, I think if you're Matt Campbell, there's I think people are still like surprised at how happy he is at Iowa State, and obviously there's challenges there. It's hard to have the roster and the depth year to year to contend for a Big 12 title constantly. But he loves it there. He loves that he felt like it was a sleeping giant. He's certainly woken it up there, and now they're certainly aiming to try and win the league. And I think he's a guy that I just talking to people who know him well, who've been around him for a long time, I think they really believe that there's just a very, very short list of jobs for a guy who's been a lifetime Ohio guy that would interest him. And I imagine that's probably kind of those elite Big Ten jobs, whether it's Ohio State or maybe Penn State or whatever, or maybe a Notre Dame. I just don't think there are that many jobs that he sees as being so far superior to what he has right now. And that surprises people, but that's just how Matt Campbell views the world.
Max, I don't know.
He's also a huge Cleveland Browns fan, so maybe they'll come call him someday too.
Oh, yeah. Max, TCU got quite the recruiting coup this week. Fans of this show, or at least most, won't be happy to hear about that. But Zach Evans, the 5-star running back out of North Shore, signs with TCU after what could be described as a bit of a dramatic recruiting process. Just how huge of a coup was this for Gary Patterson and the Frogs?
Yeah, that was a jaw dropper on Monday morning to see that come through, and certainly a credit to Gary Patterson and his staff for pulling off that deal. The fascinating thing to me is that TCU offered Zach Evans back in February of 2018, and from that point on, at no point I don't think he ever mentioned TCU in interviews. He never put TCU on his short list of schools. They were just never really on his radar, and so for this kid, obviously he went through a fascinating, up and down recruiting process. Signed with Georgia. Georgia let him out of that NLI due to some of the issues he had during his senior season, and he said he wanted to be closer to home because he has an ailing grandmother. But this is a guy who we really haven't heard anything from since January. And he took a couple official visits, Ole Miss and Tennessee. He wanted to go see Florida, but the shutdown obviously has made that hard. And so this story really has kind of flown under the radar here for the past couple months. And what a job by the TCU staff to bring in a 5-star guy who I think they can give him the structure and discipline and support that he needs to get back on track and really grow up and mature into the type of NFL talent that I think everyone seems to think he can be, and has thought that for a few years.
You brought up Tennessee there, and they've been an interesting team to follow during recruiting. They have been a team on fire under Jeremy Pruitt, and we know how the whole coaching search worked out, Max, and how that was a bit dramatic in and of itself, and then a very bad start from them. But are the Vols one of the hottest programs in the country right now, or has the sleeping giant kind of woken up a little bit?
Yeah, it's funny what a short memory kids have when it comes to recruiting, because at the end of September, Jeremy Pruitt was, one more bad loss away from getting fired, basically. And so the way that they finished that season, I think to win 6 in a row and turn things around and win just enough. Yeah, I think they won 8 games, but to win just enough to convince kids that this was pointing back in the right direction. It's like, I'm not surprised that Jeremy Pruitt and his staff are recruiting at a really high level, because he's got a bunch of great recruiters. And even when he was at like Alabama before Tennessee, I think he's a hell of a recruiter himself. But boy, it's impressive to see that they have 21 commits already for this class, and I'm sure that a lot of their SEC rivals are going to be trying to poach some of those players before we get to signing day here. But for Tennessee to be able to generate that kind of momentum with everything that's going on right now, it's certainly got everybody's attention.
Max, with the schedule, not known yet what's going to happen, There's a lot, California essentially shutting down for 3 more months in Los Angeles, and that's going to affect USC and UCLA, and the Pac-12 is seemingly much more in flux than, say, the ACC or the SEC or the Big 12. What do you think happens schedule-wise? Do you think that, we might see this Alabama-TCU game or something like that to make up for the fact that the Pac-12 may have to just postpone their season and only play each other this year?
Yeah, I think this speculation and some of the reports you've seen over the past week or two, I think are a really great example of why it's just so important that these Power 5 leagues work together. I mean, they need to come to a uniform decision on things, because I think you're seeing the dangers of it. If everything kind of splinters off and if different states or different universities are kind of making their own decisions or having to follow different rules, then it's going to make for a really messy situation where you're going to have some schools ready to go and some that are canceling games and not being able to cooperate. So it makes it really a fascinating problem here in the months ahead. Is can these conference commissioners really get on the same page and work together to come up with kind of a more uniform answer for all this stuff? Because if it's left up to school and state to state, then it's gonna then you're gonna end up with something that doesn't resemble a college football season at all.
Back to Matt Campbell. He I believe is from Massillon, Ohio, which is one of the famous high schools in Ohio, but also in the country. Mount Union, we know their history as well. How did he handle and the expectations of last year's team, which was a lot of people thought would play for a Big 12 title, and it was Baylor, and one of those wins that helped them do that was the amazing Iowa State comes back and then Baylor kicks the field goal. How did he handle kind of the expectations were so high, even though it is Iowa State, and then it not quite being what they thought?
Yeah, it's really the last 2 seasons. They've kind of had this problem where they've just started slow, and you saw it in non-conference play for them last season, even in their opener. Obviously, probably not the best luck for them to catch, a really good Baylor team to open conference play like that at the end of September. But this is an Iowa State team for the last 2 years that you've really kind of start to see them play their best football in October and early November, and that's when you've seen them have those big upsets of Oklahoma and TCU and those games that really get everybody's attention across the country. And so I think that's still part of the buildup for them is how can you construct a team that's got enough leadership and enough talent that you can play really good football right away when the season begins. And obviously when you open early on with Iowa every year, that's the game that's kind of the measuring stick of where you're at. And so they need to get past Iowa one of these years, and then they need to take the momentum from that and get on a run in Big 12 play. And look, the one thing that always helps is when you've got the quarterback, at least you got a lot more confidence in what you're building. And I think they certainly do in Brock Purdy.
You want to get Max a little fired up, not just Matt Campbell or Craig and the recruiting and all the other things. What are your thoughts about the Rams uniforms?
Oh, my God. How much time you got?
Got an hour and 50 minutes.
Yeah.
No, to me, bottom line, I like the Rams uniforms from last year and the years before.
Me too.
Them drifting back towards the powder blue, I think was a good look. It's one of those where it's like, what are we doing here? Like there wasn't a problem that needed to be fixed, and then so for what they came up with, not just with the uniforms and the colors, but then the logo too. They just totally blew it.
Yeah, Max.
I
the only thing I had a problem with was a couple years ago, their helmets and their jerseys didn't match, and it drove me nuts.
But you're a Cowboys fan.
I understand this idea that you want to if the point of this is you want to kind of break off from, well, these were the uniforms that they wore in St. Louis and all that, so be it. But I don't think most people feel that way. I think people just liked what they were wearing before, and I don't get it. I think Jalen Ramsey should ask for another trade.
he probably will at some point. Probably will.
I love the old Rams powder blue and this gold on the shoulders.
Yeah.
I always, and I love their helmet. I've always loved their helmet too.
Merlin Olsen, Deacon Jones Rams uniforms. Let's do those.
Yeah, I know. All right, Max. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate it. That's Max Olson, theathletic.com, with us on Thursdays at 4 o'clock. College football and other particular notes as well. Mickey Spagnola will be at the bottom of the hour, another segment before then.
I have a couple of things. For one, the main point of contention I have with the Rams' new uniforms is they just look like they're like half finished. Looks like somebody got into Photoshop and was creating it, and then they just kind of stopped at some point, and then they were like, oh, I got to turn this in 30 minutes. Let me add a couple things, and that's just what it looks like to me. And their Ram logo, not like the horns, but like the Ram logo they have, it looks like a little kid drew it or something. It's not something that they could have paid that much money for, and these are like professional graphic designers. I don't see how they're getting it so wrong.
And a ton of teams, like the Vikings have new uniforms this year, the Browns.
There's like 6 of them, I think,
the
that have
Jaguars,
uniforms.
the Jets, the Dolphins, the Bucks. I think all of Florida just decided we're gonna shake things up.
Well, and
money
with Nike, they've now been doing this for a few years. They've so badly botched some of the redos that they've gone back more to the stuff that they had originally fixed, like with the Browns. And it's just like, well, what was the point of the change in the first place?
The same with the Jets went back to their like 70s uniforms, which I always thought were really cool.
The white helmets, I like those.
And then now they're back to their 80s uniforms.
Green, yeah.
Yeah.
The other note that I had, he was actually one of the first guests, I think, during the first week we were on the air. It might have been week number 2, but Ace Whitehead has received an offer from Army West Point.
Oh, good.
I saw him post that up. So, the very talented quarterback from Lampasas now has a West Point offer.
4-8, player of the year, offensive player of the year.
I think that's a good fit. I mean, if he goes there, he'll, at least style-wise, that's a good fit for him. He can run that system.
It's to play baseball, so it's a baseball scholarship.
Which is that is his number one.
Sorry,
because of what he can do, and they went to the semifinals and they got through a couple of people that perhaps you didn't expect them to beat, and then they gave Carthage every ounce of whatever they could handle in the semifinal game. So good. We had him on. You're right. It was like right off the top, first week of doing SicEm 365 radio. Coming up next, we'll look at a couple of notes. You hear about Mike Fisher's column or story today about the White House?
No. Not the one in Washington, the one in Irving or wherever it was?
He's alluded to that before. I think we all know the story, but he actually went into some depth about how Michael Irvin became the king of the Cowboys when it comes to, like, running with him.
He became the president
of
the White House?
He had to have a fight with a former player, an older player. We'll have that next, but also Mickey then at 4:30. Tim Brown at 5, and also then Greg Tepper and his happiness on high school football, the UIL 100 at 5:20, and this is SicEm 365 Radio. One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction with a team of 24 experienced agents who are excited about serving you. Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like these, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illness and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI. And please, remember to follow CDC guidelines and practice social distancing. Stay home, except for the essentials, and be safe. Together, we'll get through this.
Dr. Kent Petty wants you to be the highest performance man you want to be. Are you sluggish, lack energy? Do you suffer from low sex drive? Petty Clinic Low T offers discounted comprehensive lab work to check on your various levels that can make a difference. It's not only time for you to be the man you want to be with higher energy and stamina and improved sex drive, but also the healthiest and high performance man. Screening for cardiac heart disease risk, EKG, cholesterol panel, blood pressure monitoring, testosterone or growth hormone deficiency, male infertility, hepatitis C, and prostate cancer screening. Petty Clinic Low T offers replacement therapy for testosterone or growth hormones, weight management therapy, and nutritional advice. It's not only time for you to be the man you want to be with higher energy, stamina, and improved sex drive, but the healthiest and highest performance man. PettyClinicLowT.com, PettyClinicLowT.com on Old Hewitt Road, just off Highway 84 in Woodward. PettyClinicLowT.com. Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
This is SicEm 365 Radio.
Prescott out to his left. Throws, caught, touchdown, Elliott.
The SicEm 365 Radio text line is sponsored by Riverbend's Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
So, this morning at 8:39, one of our weekly analysts on the Cowboys and even more, Mike Fisher at Fish Sports, posted one of the most read stories in the SI Now network right now inside the Cowboys' infamous White House. And then there's the story. It's not a book-like story. This could be a book. This could be an E60 or whatever. But it does discuss when the Cowboys started to kind of let it run. But he compares it by writing this. He compares it to what is The Last Dance. And I agree, based on things you've heard, even what Nate Newton's mentioned or others, what James Washington said to us yesterday is that Cowboys could ever, without question of the 90s, especially in the mid-90s, early to mid-90s, could have had their own documentary series, The Last Dance. Without question. And so he wrote that. It was up today, and part of it was, how did the so-called, who got the leadership of running this thing? Apparently, Gene Lockhart, was kind of one of the guys that was running this thing. And then one night, might have been an afternoon, he and Michael got into it. And it was whoever survives. And as one of the descriptions of this was that Michael won. And I wish I could find the exact note, but because he went hood. He went back. Eugene was running this basketball team called the Hoopsters. Now, they ran more than just basketball. So they got into it badly. And he said, this is Montoya, who was Carlos. The ghetto just came out in Mike, and he kicked his ass. After that, Gene stopped playing for the Hoopsters, and Mike said, from now on, you work for me, to this guy Montoya. And I guess maybe to Lockhart, who quit. And he said, Montoya's job description was framed by 2 mandates. Bring me the finest girls you can find. Always get me to practice on time. And I was told many times when I would interrupt him in the morning that he had a 7 o'clock team meeting. I had to interrupt. I had to wake him up at 6 or get him going at 6. He'd get upset with me and say, hey, leave me alone. But then he also always said, thank you for getting me, if he did get him to the meetings on time.
Yeah, I mean, that would be a very interesting Showtime series, more so than I think ESPN, although ESPN's done a good job with The Last Dance, but I think they had, more than a couple of Rodman-type guys in that White House at times. Just Irvin alone, fits that bill as far as being a crazy party guy with big fame and a lot of money and a lot of attention. And he was one of many on those Cowboys teams. So, yeah, you always hear the stories about that place. And we've never, I think, even scratched the surface, really, of all the stories out of that place, nor will we ever probably, because I don't know that a lot of the former Cowboys who used to frequent there really want to share all of those stories. But, Nate's referenced it. Mike's referenced it. Others have as well. And that is a very interesting time period in Cowboys history.
So I love the last line. I'm hoping the people living there don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Golly.
I can't say the last thing because if those walls could talk.
It's not a really long read either. It's not. It's more of a column than it is anything else. But that's up on @FishSports on his Twitter feed. The infamous White House, and it's on at SI Now.
Would you buy the White House if it was a really nice house? It was in your price range. You really liked it, but you knew the history of it.
I don't know.
The history turned you away.
Yeah, it might.
There were no murders in there.
No, but
it's a lot of partying.
No, there was a lot. Yeah, no, and it was close enough to Valley Ranch to where they could leave practice, go straight into whatever they wanted to do.
Drive, which is right around the corner.
Yeah,
I've been to Valley Ranch
take
a few
left
times.
at Staubach, take a right on.
Yeah, that.
Adderley.
It's I'll tell you, it's a lot easier to get to the Cowboys facility now. Because if you miss it, then you're just not paying attention. Mm-hmm. But Valley Ranch, I remember the first time I went there, I called you, I'm like, hey, I'm in a neighborhood. And he's like, yeah, you're in the right spot. I was like, yeah, but there's like houses. They're all named after Cowboys. Like, just keep going. You'll be in the right spot. And I thought, this is weird. It just kind of comes up on you out of the neighborhood.
If you had that, now this Frisco, of course, is basically all but on, what is it, the tollway? Mm-hmm. Is that the tollway or is that? Yeah, it's a tollway. And you had to start laying a map of roads around Frisco compared to 40 years ago, whatever it was in Valley Ranch, whenever they moved from what was 75 in Dallas, I-75, whatever, and to Valley Ranch. Can you imagine how many roads you could fill with not just random names?
I mean, there's Cowboy names around it. It's not as many, though, as there were in Valley Ranch because they already moved on to I guess kind of that area. There was nothing there, and then they just built it. So
who would be the most interesting team to do Last Dance style documentaries
I mean, the
on?
90s Cowboys would be pretty interesting.
Do they have enough, though, as far as, like, they have the trouble. They've got the arrests, but it seemed like that team got along pretty well for the most part.
Well, James Washington said, other than the training camp incident with Eric Williams and the scissors or whatever, Michael. The comparisons are they had someone who was at the top in management in Jerry Jones and Jerry Krause, and Jerry, but Jerry Krause seemed like none of the players liked him. Players loved Jerry.
There's very few that don't love Jerry.
So you had your guys who ran hard, like ran their motors into the ground, but they really kind of the Rodman thing was about the only thing they showed that was anything with risky or whatever, and it wasn't. He was just in Vegas partying with somebody he was dating at the time. And whoever else.
And some other people.
Yeah.
I just wonder if
whoever showed up in the room.
If there would be enough storylines to do, 10 episodes outside of just them being really good and winning. Like, you'd have the trade for Dion and Charles Haley, and you'd have a lot of different things. But I just wonder if it would be in the same vein as The Last Dance.
Do you have them? I know Emmett and Aikman and Irvin and Haley and all them were who they were. But do you have an MJ figure that was still the reason why this documentary was put together?
No, because it's the triplets. And for all intents and purposes, Aikman's kind of boring when it comes to MJ. I mean, the most controversial things about Aikman were things that Skip Bayless just made up.
Yep.
To sell a book.
But he was in practice. I don't know if I could compare him to MJ because but he was very much that look that you got.
Yeah, but
kicked the football backwards one time, he got mad. In practice, that's one incident. Not the Jordan thing was like every single day.
I'll say this: they've done the U right? They've covered the U in that time period.
That's kind of my point of comparison.
Yeah, so they could do it. I think it'd be really. I think obviously if you went 90s Cowboys and you showed 3 Super Bowl titles and the different stars that were a part of those
and of course
teams.
you got Deion,
Right, yeah.
the swing player between the 2 Super Bowls he won back to back.
Oh wait, actually, you know what? If you got Jimmy in there talking about Jerry, that could get really interesting and kind of how it all fell apart, the rise and fall of the Cowboys. They've done lots of rise and fall type things.
I think Jimmy would be very candid about Jerry, and not that Jerry's not candid. I think Jerry has a different view of how that really went down.
Yeah,
like
probably.
his perspective on it, even all these years later when you heard him talk about it, he admitted in his Hall of Fame speech, I probably screwed that up. He's very much admitted how unprofessional he was firing Tom Landry.
Mm-hmm.
Not that he wouldn't have not fired Tom Landry.
Which is how you would kind of start the doc.
He would just have done it better than he did.
Right.
But Jerry's like, look, man, and he's always a guy like, I'm kind of learning on the fly here.
Yeah,
and
he's not one to dwell on. You can't be successful like him if you just sit there and dwell on everything he could have done differently.
Yeah, I think he and Jimmy could sit in the same room for an hour and be cordial.
And that would be a great show.
I think if you got to 2 hours, it would be like, can we just leave? Let's not. We're bringing up a lot of stuff.
It's just them both with cups of Johnny Walker Blue.
I would like to see the Jimmy and Jerry thing just on the fact that, and I'm not saying that Jerry Jones needs anyone to stick up for him, but Jimmy Johnson gets off nearly scot-free in most of the discussion about that when he was absolutely trying to get fired.
Mm-hmm.
He wanted to leave. He had it up to here.
When he go out on his boat.
Jimmy... Yes, that's part that continually gets overlooked. Jimmy forced this, and had Jerry not lost it in Orlando, or even if Jerry would have bitten his lip in Orlando, that was still going to happen.
Yeah.
He was going to find an out to be in there.
But then beyond that, you have the storyline of Switzer coming in, and Aikman and Switzer not getting along because Switzer recruited Aikman to play Oklahoma, and then Aikman leaving to go to UCLA.
Aikman and Jimmy didn't get along.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know, Mickey can tell us that story here in a second, but they finally met over some like Corona beers at Jimmy's place with a big, huge fish tank. That was kind of something that got them on the same page. We'll ask Mickey in the next segment. Mickey Spagnola will join us. DallasCowboys.com. Tim Brown, Hall of Famer, Heisman Trophy winner at 5.
I did want to pass along this last quote from Anthony Paco Montoya, Michael Irvin's former personal assistant who was involved in the White House. He said, they obviously took care of business on the field, but man, nobody partied like them. Fights, women, drinking, orgies. I'll just say this. If there would have been smartphones and social media back then, the Cowboys wouldn't have been able to field a team come Sunday.
Nope.
Social media would have imploded.
Yeah.
My God.
Jordan, all of that.
Mickey Spagnola is next.
The biggest, toughest, hardest-working heavy-duty trucks are on sale at Allen Samuels. Now, get employee pricing for all on new Ram heavy duties and no payments for 90 days. These unprecedented incentives won't last long. HDs for farm and ranch, for business and all commercial operations. Ram Heavy Duties, the Motor Trend Truck of the Year. Drive forward with Ram. From your friend in the car business, Allen Samuels.
Ask for details. All offers with approved credit.
Our communities are facing unprecedented times. At Boozer's Jewelers, we care about you and your family. If you're like me, your home has unwanted or unused jewelry lying around. They can have value, and that means we can turn that jewelry into instant cash. This is a great way to get the most value from your unwanted jewelry. At Boozer's Jewelers, we buy all kinds of unused jewelry. So give us a call and let us give you peace of mind and cash for your unwanted or unused jewelry.
Do you love Friday Night Lights? Would you like to have a bigger role than just watching the action to ensure the games are played fairly and safely? The Waco football chapter of the Texas Association of Sports Officials, or TASO, can make that happen. The 2020 Texas high school football season is right around the corner, and we need you to be a part of it. There's a shortage of officials across the state in all sports, and you can help. If you love the game and want to be a part of the solution, you can help our local student athletes continue to participate in games they love. Never officiated before? Don't worry. Waco Football Chapter can help and prepare you to make the right call. And right now, Introduction to Football Officiating class is accepting registrations. Make your first grade call today by looking us up and contacting us on Facebook at Waco Football Chapter or at our website, wacofootballchapter.com. Find out more about the Waco Football Chapter of the Texas Association of Sports Officials, or TASO. Go to wacofootballchapter.com.
Texas board-certified personal injury trial lawyer and Baylor alum David Willis and Baylor alum Parker Willis are ready to help if you or a loved one has been wrongfully injured in an auto accident, SUV rollover, industrial accident, 18-wheeler crash, or were seriously injured by a defective product or recalled drug. Call them for a confidential and free case consultation at 1-800-GOT-HURT or visit them at texastriallawyer.com, principal office in Houston, Texas.
I hate my job, but I don't mind getting up in the morning. I dread each day, but I can't wait to get out of bed. You ask me why, and what I'll say to you is true. Well, you can get breakfast tacos at Rudy's Barbecue. Scrambled eggs and brisket, they ain't fooling around. Salsa drap, son, they're the best in town. Barbecue for breakfast, yes, it's true. Put a smile on your morning at Rudy's Barbecue.
Next in line.
SicEm365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support our community through this crisis. When you need an MRI, ask your doctor for an Ideal MRI. Visit us at IdealMRI.com or call us at 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Waco, Texas, a place with its own unique history and a future bright with promise. Full of remarkable growth and opportunity, and what makes it all work is its people, families, raising children, growing businesses. Wacoans are hardworking with a passion for what's next, and we're proud to be from here, helping Waco to grow and prosper. We are the First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions. Member FDIC, an equal housing lender.
This is SicEm365 Radio.
Got in trouble. Wide open. And now the foot race. The former Ram, Austin, for the touchdown.
SicEm365 Radio.
VIP Hotline is sponsored by Stonewood Dental. We are all in this together.
I think you did pretty well. You dodged in and out. I jumped the gun, obviously. Yeah. Greg Smoke, Paul Catalina, Dylan Chapman, David Smoke, SicEm365 Radio. We're joined by Mickey Spagnola, DallasCowboys.com. Mickey, we just touched a little bit on Mike Fisher and the story he had on SI Now, and I guess on, I'm not sure where else, but on the White House. I know that let's talk football, but God, could that not be a docuseries in itself?
So I didn't see it. You're talking about back in like 1995 or something?
Yeah, the White House that became basically where the Cowboys after practice went and enjoyed themselves until the next morning. And it's kind of in the who the guy was that was one of the insiders that eventually befriended Irvin, and how Irvin became the king of the hoopsters with he and Eugene Lockhart getting into it. And I mean, the Cowboys of the 90s, that year or two or three, could they not have been, in a way, one of those docu-series like you're seeing The Last Dance?
Well, yeah, if anybody had recorded any of that stuff. And, you know, for their sake, thank goodness there was no social media, right?
Yeah. That's exactly, Paul, who was it?
Well,
Craig?
Montoya. That's what he said in the, there's no, there had been social media, the Cowboys wouldn't have had enough players on Sunday.
No, absolutely not. Or if they had monitored off-the-field behavior back then, right? That was some pretty wild days. But you know what? I guarantee you, if you went back in the 70s, and I'm not saying it was the same, but just remember Dallas in the 70s was the wild, wild west. And the Dallas Cowboys were the most popular people in town. And I heard Charlie Waters once say on a radio interview that he said, "Thank God I got married because I probably would have killed myself."
Man.
Yeah, they partied some hard. Man, did they party hard.
Mickey, I mean, it's been 25, 30 years since that time period. Just what, I mean, I know so many things have changed, but how different is it covering this, these few years Cowboys teams versus what it was like, 20, 25 years ago?
Well, our access was greater. There was very little control out at the ranch on coming and going. I was talking with Bill Jones today, and we were talking about covering the off season, and he said, I remember when I was working at Channel 5, and he goes, it was the off season and needed a story, and I'd just go in to the ranch and hang out in the locker room and hope somebody would show up so I could do an interview. You didn't need any escort. Mm-hmm. There was no security. If you think about it, and I don't know if David remembers this or not, but I had an office. Well, at the time, there were 3 newspapers, and then it was 2 newspapers and myself, and we each had a little small office, probably about on a hallway 10, 15 feet inside the player's entrance.
Uh-huh.
And, I could sit at my desk and leave the door open, and I could see who was coming and going. I could see if someone was leaving on crutches that I need to go ask the trainer, what's the latest injury? And guys would just stop in, sit and talk. So, yeah, it was a little more easier time probably back then than it is now.
If you were to be in Valley Ranch, where they eventually then put everybody in that little kind of almost like a couple of closets, but you're right, that was in that back left, I don't know if that would have been northwest corner of the facility or not, and you just walked in. And I actually hosted a show there one time in one of those. Yeah, I'm sure you did. And that's where those little cubicles were. And they were small, but they were very functional. They weren't soundproof, I can tell you that. And I can remember the first day I did a segment for the ticket, and which began in January at the Super Bowl, and this would have been March, and it would have been the day that Jimmy and Jerry had their press conference to announce that he was departing, and that was my first day on the job, and we did the broadcast from that little cubicle right inside that side entrance for the players' parking lot. You don't know how many times we chased players into the parking lot. I remember when they traded Herschel Walker, and he was walking out of the building and headed towards his car, and everybody went running out. And, I finally looked at myself and I said, you know what? I'm somewhat grown. I don't know if I'm mature, but I'm not running after anybody anymore. That's it. Here's another thing. There was an event. Now, Paul, there was, then they started to become like their own version of, obviously they were raising hell and all that, but still winning. But there was one event eventually that took was it training camp or something that happened that they took you from that section where you were, in the back left corner, and they stuck you closer in between what is the media relations and almost like the front. Was there a specific?
Oh yeah. They made a special room up front by the accounting office and moved everybody out of the back there and moved us up to the front, closer to the front door. And there was no more going in that back side door. You had to go in the front door where there now was some security, and there was a lady sitting at the front desk. And think about this. So, from a security standpoint, if you want to talk about old days, I think it was, and I can't remember if it was regular season or if it was off-season practice. No, I think it was regular season practice. So it had to be sometime mid-'90s. And we're sitting there watching practice, and all of a sudden we hear some yelling and screaming, and some woman comes climbing over the fence where those bushes were by the players' parking lot, screaming at Troy Aikman. And she comes running down the track and onto the field. And everybody's standing there looking, and it might have been the first time Aikman's offensive line parted. They didn't know what the hell was going on. They all backed off, and I'm going, oh, the guy needs help, and everybody moved. And finally somebody went and grabbed her, and evidently she had been stalking him for quite some time. But can you imagine that happening today?
Oh, my God.
Yeah, that'd be nuts.
It would be on TMZ, or if it wasn't on TMZ, it'd be all over ESPN. We would be talking.
I guess if you're a celebrity, you hope that your stalker gives up or gets caught before anything like that happens.
Who's the worst? Well, there's probably some that have proved out to be deadly. I don't want to get.
Well, I mean, Monica Seles' stalker was pretty bad.
At an event, at a tennis event, stabbed her, right?
Yeah. So.
Oh,
you don't know how many times Aikman. And he lived in a gated. He lived in a gated community. How many times he'd come home at night from a night out, and there would be people in his pool waiting for him.
Crazy.
That he didn't know.
Just swim around. Hey, Troy, how you doing? Oh,
yeah,
my gosh.
Right?
Can't even imagine.
Yeah.
Oh, good Lord.
Yeah, that's man. Golly, that's unbelievable. All right, Mickey. So to the present day Cowboys.
We got to bring up James Washington later on in this segment.
Yeah, we do.
Right?
Yeah, we talked to James yesterday.
Okay, good. He's one of my favorite guys.
And he should be. Yeah.
So present day Cowboys. Do you see them making any other tweaks to the roster between now and the start of training camp?
Oh, it depends on if anything else falls in their lap. I mean, they've had things fall in their lap, right?
Mm-hmm. Andy Dalton.
With the quarterback, all of a sudden he's available and he'll play for $3 million, and it's like, oh, Andy, we got a job for you. I think the one thing that they probably need to keep their eyes out for is kind of a pass rushing defensive end. If it's someone that'll give them a sweetheart deal, maybe a 1-year deal, kind of a prove it deal, sort of like they did maybe with Randall Cobb. 1 year, $5 million, $3 million, something like that. Somebody that's got a little bit of a track record of rushing the quarterback. Because right now, I mean, if they have to start tomorrow, Tyrone Crawford's your starting right defensive end. And so, he's the only guy with a certain amount of experience that's on the roster and is not on a suspended list. So, I would think, there's guys out there like Marcus Golden. I've seen a few other names that if they're willing to pay for $3 to $5 million on a 1-year deal, kind of a prove it deal, they might take them on. I could see them doing that. I don't know that they're actively pursuing anything because two of the things they needed to pursue, I thought, was a backup offensive tackle. And they did that with Cameron Irving. And he was one of those guys that got released that had some starting experience. And it's like, okay, we can bring this guy in on a 1-year deal. And then I thought, with all those veteran quarterbacks out there looking for jobs, who wants to be unemployed on May 1st? And Andy Dalton fell on their lap. So maybe a defensive end. But other than that, I think they're pretty much set at this point. And who knows? It could get better if, Randy Gregory and Aldon Smith get removed from the indefinite suspension list, and if they have something left after not playing for so long.
Mickey, I know that for folks like you who are on, the ground floor every day with the Cowboys, that your answer to anything related to Dak Prescott has been out there. You guys have described the situations, but the national media obviously does things a little bit differently. So it's every day, Dak this, Dak that. How much does the talk drive you crazy? And is it just, just part of the deal that the national media does this? I mean, there's nothing new to update. There's nothing to speculate on. It's just going along as it's supposed to be. And I guess just the national media can't help themselves.
Yeah, and they know what gets clicks. Number one, it's the Cowboys. Number two, it's the Cowboys and the quarterback. I mean, it's always been that way with Cowboys quarterbacks, right, David? Mm-hmm. Let's face it. It's two of the greatest combinations ever for to write about, to talk about, to catch eyeballs. So it seems like every time Stephen Jones does a kind of a national interview, radio, podcast, whatever you want to call it, somebody's going to be there quoting them. and then it comes up again, and you redress it. As I pointed out to you guys, the Cowboys want to sign them to a long-term deal. They want to sign them to a long-term deal with a lot of money. But we don't know what they're asking for. And so that's kind of the bottom line, because it is to the Cowboys' benefit to sign him to a long-term deal. And as I've explained it before, I don't know, say he gets a $50 million signing bonus. Well, you prorate that over 5 years, and it's $10 million a year. And the first year, you probably give him a small base salary, and I say small, $3 to $5 million, and you reduce his cap hit that's on the franchise tag right now in half. So they want to do that. Now, we're hearing they want a 4-year deal, not a 5-year deal. Well, all those other quarterbacks that signed extensions, like Russell Wilson, Goff, Wentz, they signed 4-year extensions when they still had 1 year left on their contract. So they essentially basically were committed to 5 years. So you can sit there and tell me that Russell Wilson signed a 4-year, $140 million extension and divide it out, and I guess it comes to $35 million a year. Well, he still had 1 year left on his contract for, I believe it was $8 million. So now it's a 5-year, $148 million deal. Well, now divide that out by 5, and you get less than $30 million a year. So again, it's all these numbers and how you want to massage them. So I don't know what they're looking for. All I know is, from a franchise tag prospect, you get paid 1/17 of that total, $31.409 million a week when you play games. Well, what happens if they don't play? Say they miss 4 games.
Right.
You're going to miss 4 paychecks when someone's offering you $50 million right now, put in the bank tomorrow in this condition that we're in. So I don't know. I guess I'm a little bit more conservative a lot more conservative with my financial outlook than betting on, well, I'm going to get more. Well, how much more can you get? Somebody asked me today, well, what happens if, the other quarterbacks sign extensions? It's like, well, you can sign an extension today. You can sign a long-term deal, and by the start of the season, there's going to be somebody that outdoes your contract. That's just kind of the way it goes. You'll never be the highest paid, say, quarterback for more than, 4 months, 6 months, and it's going to change. Well, and are you going to run in and say, I got to have more. I should make as much as that guy. So, I'll tell you guys a funny story on these contract things. And I don't know, David, if you knew this or not, but we used to have Old Timers Club, the guys that used to cover the Cowboys forever, radio, TV, print. We'd meet once a month for lunch, and Pat Summerall was part of it. And it might have been the greatest thing I ever got to take part in without having to talk. I just sat back and listened to the stories, right? Summerall had some of the greatest stories ever. Brad Sham was part of it. All the guys that covered the Cowboys in the 70s and early 80s were a part of it. It was just fabulous. And Greg Ellis' story came up. When he signed a new contract, he signed for 7 years. No one does that. But he was getting money in the bank, and I think he was coming off, at the time, a torn Achilles. And so he was more than glad to sign an extension. Well, about three years later is when the contracts exploded, and all of a sudden what he was getting paid then was peanuts compared to where the pass rushing defensive ends were getting paid at that point. And Summerall didn't understand why he was complaining. And I said, well, Pat, here's the deal. So I explained it, and I said, now, what he's making is not comparable to what other guys starting at this position are. I said he kind of came around too soon. Summerall looked at me with that deep voice and he goes, we all came around too soon. It's just, right? You know, the guys in the 70s, mid-70s were great players, but they certainly weren't making anything close to what the guys in the mid-90s were. And today, the same thing, right? You can go look up contracts and see what Emmitt Smith signed for, and you look at what Zeke signed for, and it's like, it must make their heads swim.
Well,
so it's just kind of the lay of the land with these contracts.
You had Gurley, then Zeke, and now who was the latest? Didn't somebody else just recently get more than
Christian
Zeke?
McCaffrey.
Yeah, Christian McCaffrey. So
McCaffrey.
Yeah, and then it'll never end. Can you imagine if you had enough clout, and nobody will ever have enough clout? Let's say it was Aikman back the first time he signed, when he got the $50 million deal, whatever it was. I don't remember. Can you imagine?
You mean his rookie contract?
Yeah. Well,
it was 11.
What was his first free agent? I know the
first free agent one, yeah.
Yeah.
It probably got into the 20s or 30s, somewhere in there.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine if you had enough clout as a player, though, that you could, and your agent was good enough, and an organization would never do this? Okay, so I want $25 million a year. I want a 4-year deal, 5-year deal. What I want like $70 million, but I can never not be the highest paid quarterback. So automatically when somebody else signs, I get kicked up. That's
like the coaches have?
Like, yes.
College coaches have that escalator clause all over the place.
Very similar to that. But you're right about, and I had somebody on the text line, from the 202, it said, remind Mickey who was stopping Dallas from extending Dak last year? No one. And I'm not sure, I don't have the history there, but would Dak have agreed to something last year?
Well, he got offered something. He didn't agree to it.
Okay.
And I'm sure, maybe what they're offering now has gone up. He kind of bet on himself and he won. But, does every time a quarterback gets signed have to sign for the largest deal of any quarterback in the league? Because I think that's what they're looking for. I don't know for sure what the Cowboys are offering, but the largest deal right now is Russell Wilson, and I think they're pretty close to it. So how much more do you need? And that's the thing, we just don't know. And I see the reaction. I saw somebody tweet out today, are the Cowboys the only team ever to have to franchise their franchise quarterback? And I didn't want to be a smart aleck, so I just kind of mentioned very politely, Redskins, Kirk Cousins. Mm-hmm. They did it twice, right? Yeah. But you don't know what people are asking for. And even Cousins, we thought that was unbelievable. A 3-year deal, fully 100% guaranteed. It was $84 million. Well, do the math on 3 into 84. It comes to about, 27 million a year.
28.
28, okay. Yeah. And that's not close to 35. But it was a pretty good deal for him at that point, and now he signed an extension. So, and what happens is these things get a little bit expanded during the off season, right? There's nothing else to write about. There's nothing else going on. As I pointed out in my Mix Shots column yesterday on DallasCowboys.com, it's like, okay, from February to middle of April, we had the draft to look forward to. Everybody's doing their mock drafts. We're all doing analysis on these players that are going to get drafted. Great. And then they had the draft. Great. And then we had the schedule to look forward to. Great. Well, what are we looking forward to now? Because we don't know. It's the great unknown. We're probably not going to have an off season, and if it is, it's going to be a short one. Will training camp start in time? Well, that seems so far away. Like July 22nd or whenever that might be. So, anything you can sink your teeth into, and everybody's coming up with lists. You got to get something out there. People are starving for it. I get it. I understand it. So. This was one of the reasons why I never really enjoyed off seasons, because a lot of stuff happens, gets reported, and no one's really worried about being accurate. They just want to get something out there, and get eyeballs on it.
Mickey, thank you very much. We appreciate your time. Mickey Spagnola with us on Thursdays at 4:30 from DallasCowboys.com. One of the things, and this is part of the text line back and forth, because one of the other things, it depends on who you talk to, listen to, or you want to, you agree with or not. It's not so much even the dollars per year. It's that Dak wants to be able to be a free agent the next time there's a collective bargaining agreement, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is in 20, whatever it is. It's a 4-year or 5-year deal, so he could become a free agent again. I think that's also a sticking point. In the end, Dak's going to get his. The Cowboys will have him, and there's really not much else anyone can do about it.
No, don't listen to all these talking.
Yeah.
I know we're talking heads too, but all these people nationally are talking about the Cowboys should trade Dak or cut Dak. I mean, just don't listen to any of that nonsense.
It's thanks to the 202 on the Riverbend Liquor and Wine hotline.
It's only a story if the 1% chance that they get fed up with each other.
And in Dallas,
happens.
it won't happen. It won't. We know that.
That's why it's 1%.
Tim Brown, next on SicEm365 Radio. Live crawfish is back. The 30-pound bags of live crawfish, as delicious as you could imagine, back at Waco Custom Marketplace at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco. $3 a pound, 30-pound live crawfish bags are available. You order by Thursday at noon. You can pick up your customized order anytime on Friday afternoon until 6 p.m. And the drive-thru now open at Waco Custom Marketplace Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. You can still order what you want from their butcher shop, including beef and poultry, seafood, and also pork. And, of course, their bakery. You can order from their bakery. You can go online, WacoCustomMarketplace.com, or go by the drive-thru. Waco Custom Marketplace, live crawfish available Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 6.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and 2-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We are open to support our community through this crisis. When you need an MRI, ask your doctor for an Ideal MRI. Visit us at idealmri.com or call us at 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Texas board-certified personal injury trial lawyer and Baylor alum David Willis and Baylor alum Parker Willis are ready to help if you or a loved one has been wrongfully injured in an auto accident, SUV rollover, industrial accident, 18-wheeler crash, or were seriously injured by a defective product or recall drug. Call them for a confidential and free case consultation at 1-800-GOT-HURT or visit them at texastriallawyer.com. Principal office located in Houston, Texas.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
This is SicEm365 Radio.
It's picked up. Gannon throws on right. Open touchdown! Timmy Brown!
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Tom Albers, staying in touch with you and your money through these difficult and changing times. Edward Jones, making sense of investing. Here's David Smoke, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoke.
A couple of notes waiting on Tim Brown. And a couple of you have asked me to ask him questions or bring up a couple of moments that you might have had with him as well. Heisman Trophy winner at Notre Dame, Hall of Fame wide receiver. He was a part of that wide receiving core that kind of got cholesterol to get into the Hall of Fame. It was kind of all jammed in there. Chris Carter, Art Monk, Michael Irvin, Tim Brown. It's always one of those things you go, if you're a Hall of Famer 6 years ago, why would you have to wait 6 years to become a Hall of Famer? But there was a certain kind of a mandate you could only have so many.
That's my biggest complaint with pro football's Hall of Fame class, because I think baseball's is the most screwed up as far as the voting goes and the agendas and the way that voters go about intentionally not voting for someone just to be the guy that didn't allow Derek Jeter to get 100% of the vote or whatever stupid other reasons baseball writers come up with. But the Pro Football Hall of Fame, the issue I have with that is, you know, they're very transparent about the voting. John McClain's taken us inside that room, as many others have. But I understand to an extent having to play a little bit of catch-up. I don't understand it. If a guy wasn't good enough in the last 30 years to get in, how he's suddenly good enough to get in. And I understand that some of that was having to go back and pay respects to the game and maybe guys who got overlooked at a certain point in time. But it just feels like there's an awful lot of senior committee guys that are suddenly getting looks, but for 40 years they got no, you know, they didn't get a look, or it was determined that they weren't good enough. So what changed other than just time? What changed really? And that bothers me.
It is almost as if they don't want to have a class of 11 because some years maybe there's more. There is a weight. In the wide receiver position, it seemed like these were all elite, big-time names, including our next guest, Tim Brown, who was eventually a part of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. But remember the excruciating feeling of what Chris Carter, Art Monk, Michael Irvin, and what else they had to go through. We're now joined by the Hall of Famer himself, Heisman Trophy winning out of Notre Dame, Tim Brown, with us on SicEm365 Radio. Tim, thank you very much for being a part of the show. I want to start with this. This is a note from one of our listeners. My son and I were in Grand Prairie a couple of summers ago as my son prepared for a golf tournament via a practice round. Play was slow, and I saw a single behind us, so I invited him to join us. It was Tim Brown, total class, 100% gentleman, made a great memory for my son and for me, too.
Oh man, I think we were over at Tango Ridge. I live right around there now, so I do remember that. So I was just moving up in the neighborhood at the time. So yeah, so that was cool.
You never know how you influence somebody, and you've always been known to be that kind of person as well. We were discussing this, and I know you went through it, but if you're a Hall of Famer and 5 years later you're available to be a part of the Hall of Fame, why should you have to wait 7 or 8 based on the numbers?
Yeah, I mean, it's a process, man, that, if they had to do it all over again, I think years ago they would have put in more guys to sort of unclog the deal. But right now you got so many guys waiting, and then when you count the senior guys who are waiting, the number is getting to the point where it's going to be almost impossible. And that's why this year they went with doing the 20 guys, right? And I think they're just trying to find a way to get guys in quicker. But, when you look at it, because anybody who goes in deserves to be in. I mean, there's not a guy that you're going to say, oh, well, he shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame. Everybody deserves to be in. So why should you be in before the next guy? So you got to be happy when your name's not called, and then be overjoyed when your name is called. So that's sort of the way I looked at it. It was tough, no doubt about it, but at the same time, the guys who went in while I was waiting, I can't say they should have gone in. I should have gone in before them.
Tim, you played with a lot of really great teams. Do you have is there one team that you played with over the years with the Raiders, which they haven't been good since you've left, but is there one team that sticks out to you that was the one?
Well, I think our 1990 team was a very, very talented football team. That was a team with Bo Jackson and Marcus Allen, and that was the year that Bo, got hurt and ended his career. We really thought with Bo and Marcus, we could have, gone to Buffalo the next week and ran the ball enough to be competitive because we knew the weather was going to be bad. But Bo got hurt in the divisional playoff game. That was a very talented football team. I think defensively we were pretty good with Howie and the crew. So other than that, I think the Super Bowl team was good. But I think Gruden's last year, the Tuck game, I think, we were very solid. Football field, both on the field and off the field. And I think that we were a closer football team that year. So when Gruden left, that sort of went away a little bit. And but we were still a good football team, and that's why we made it to the Super Bowl that year.
Tim, the whole world, especially in regards to sports right now, is transfixed on The Last Dance, and Michael Jordan's one of those names. You just say Mike, and everybody knows who you're talking about. Bo was that way as well, and still is to this day. Just what was it like, the whole Bo phenomenon, and really for you being up close and personal, seeing him on a more daily basis behind the scenes out of the view of cameras of just, how freaky he really was.
Yeah, I think about it all the time, man. If Bo Jackson was playing today, how huge he would be. I mean, with social media, it would be unbelievable how big he is. He was huge back then, and I think we used to complain about Nike all the time because we felt as if Bo needed more covering than they were giving him, and because he wasn't the best when you got outside of the locker room or outside of the stadium and dealing with fans and things of that nature. But there was never anybody around him, never had a bodyguard, never had, assistants or anything like that. And so he tried to handle things his way. And at that time he had a stuttering problem. So it was even tougher for him to deal with the situation. So most of the time you see players trying to help him, escort him to the car after the game and things of that nature. So, but he was a phenomenon, no doubt about it. I mean, probably the most famous athlete in the world at that time, right before, Michael got going winning championships.
Tim Brown is our guest on SicEm365 Radio. There's that story, the stat that only one high school in America, Woodrow Wilson out of Dallas, has the two Heisman winners, Davy O'Brien and Tim Brown. And I know that you would have been 11 years old, I think, when he passed away. So I don't know. Yeah. I guess that means most likely you'd never got a chance to meet him, right?
No, never did. And but I hear his son, Davy O'Brien Jr., is a spitting image of him. He's about 5'7", 5'8", also. So I've gotten to know him quite a bit over the last 30-some years.
What's it like, and when they, of course, have the name of Notre Dame, to play for Notre Dame, and you played for them during some glory years as well? What is that like?
It was interesting. It was a transition time. Jerry Fouts was leaving out, and Lou Holtz was coming in. So, it was quite the difference. Everybody loved Jerry, but you could just tell the situation was getting out of hand with him. And Lou came in and established control of the team and really the whole university, felt like, right away. And he told us on day one that we were going to win the championship in 3 years. But the only way that was going to happen was if the seniors and the 2B seniors and 2B seniors, juniors was going to have to buy in because we wouldn't be around for it. And but we had to buy in. And, we were walking around with our heads down for a minute. But we literally had a meeting about that, the upperclassmen, and said we got to buy in. And that's what we did. And, the year after I left, they won the national championship.
Was Lou an easy guy to play for, though?
He's very demanding, but if you love the game and you're a student of the game, to me, it was very easy to play for him. But there were other guys that, who were starting on offense when he got there, they rarely even played anymore after he left. So I mean, after he got there, so so some guys found him impossible to play for, and he was the best thing that ever happened to me because I needed a coach like that to be on you and to correct you and keep directing you in the way you should be going.
Tim, how much do you keep up with the current college players? Like, for example, the guys who just got drafted, the CeeDee Lambs, to the Cowboys, and obviously a historic draft in terms of wide receivers. How much do you keep tabs on kind of the younger wave that's coming up, or is that something that's not really on your radar?
No. I definitely keep up with the young receivers coming to the league, no doubt about that. So, I thought CeeDee was going to be a good player. He turned out to be a really extremely good player, and the only reason why he didn't go higher was because of his speed. I think like the Raiders they were looking for the fastest guy who can catch a ball.
Something never changes, right?
Right.
Well, if you think of Cliff Branch, Ron Brown, Tim Brown, I mean,
and Tim played with James Jett, who was
James Jett.
I mean.
Sam Grady, Willie Gault, yeah.
Oh my God, some of those guys were Olympic track guys as well. It's back in the day. Bolitnikoff wouldn't have been a track guy. He was fast. I mean, he's good, but yeah. Now, when you watch a game, do you watch a game as a former player, or do you ever get a chance to watch a game and just be a fan?
Yeah. I mean, I think most of the time I'm watching the game as a fan. If the Raiders are playing, that's a little harder for me. If Notre Dame is playing, it's a little harder for me. But other than that, if I'm going to sit down and watch a football game, I'm not going to be critical and do things of that nature. I'm going to try and enjoy the game as much as I possibly can. So, but if the Raiders are playing or Notre Dame is playing, it's a little tougher for me because I pull for those guys, to win. And so I may be a little bit more critical on every play than I am watching regular games.
How do you think it'll work out for the Raiders in Vegas?
Man, I think this is going to be phenomenal. I really do. I mean, the city of Las Vegas, is wide open to this, and they've had a couple-year run with the hockey team and the WNBA team. And, I met with the state council people back during the season, and they said something that's pretty interesting. They said, we asked for this, and now we got to take care of it. So I think from that standpoint, they're going to go all out to make sure that the organization is welcome and make sure the players are welcome. And I think that's all you can ask for, home may be, Oakland for the Raiders, but I think they're going to find a place in Vegas that is very comfortable for them, and probably even more so than Oakland and LA.
What is the most typical question you get when you talk to Raiders fans about the franchise and the direction it is moving? And does it have anything to do with Derek Carr and whether or not he's the guy in the eyes of people?
Yeah, I mean, everybody's always worried about Derek. Can Derek get it done? And has the game passed John Gruden by? Is the two questions I get all the time. And, and I just tell people, look at what the Raiders did the first 7 or 8 games of the year last year. I mean, they were right there in the division race, and all of a sudden guys got hurt, and they were already playing a man short because, AB was supposed to be the number one guy. But Terrell went down, the other guys went down, and all of a sudden you're, trying to plug guys in an offense that needs players. It needs explosive guys, and the Raiders just didn't have that. But it's a Gruden question and Derek Carr question that you get all the time. So, but both of those questions I think should be really answered this year because I think they're loaded offensively, and guys can stay healthy and get on the field. Whenever they play football this year, I think it's going to be a beautiful thing.
You're obviously still, there's people are out. Some people are doing more than others. What have you been able to do these last couple of months when things have been more on a kind of a lockdown or be smart? Have you been able to get out and do anything much at all?
No, I mean, I think for the first month and a half, 5 or 6 weeks, man, we barely dotted the door. I mean, I went out to start one of my cars. It was dead at the door now because we hadn't started in 3 or 4 weeks or something. So, I think from that standpoint, I get out a little bit more. I mean, we go to the grocery store once a week or once every 10 days or something, but other than that, no visiting my parent, my mom, or, anything of that nature. So, but, now I'm getting out a little bit, playing a little golf with a mask on, and so we're trying to get out once a week and do that, and, trying to, just be a little bit more active.
Tim, I want to know if you're going to do any more acting. I one of the shows I've watched during quarantine was Ballers, and I know you played yourself, but you had to trump it up. You had to go toe to toe with The Rock. I mean, that had to be fun.
Man, I tell you what, he didn't make it easy for you either. He was like, "Oh, you gonna go toe to toe? You gonna go step to step? You gonna stand right here?" I mean, he was talking so much trash. Oh man, it was fun though. It was great, man. If they call me, I'll definitely be there. We went round and round initially because they wanted me to do things that was out of character for me, and I was really shocked that Rock and the whole cast agreed to do the things that I asked them to do. And so if they call me, man, they know I'll be back. And but I think what I was talking about, I didn't even watch the show since I wasn't on it. So since I was on it, so I don't know exactly what the topic is right now. But some kind of way, if they can work me in, I'm back in there. So it'd be great.
Tim, is The Rock as cool of a human being as he appears to be?
Oh my God! Oh my God! I mean, this guy, he walks in the room and everybody, takes a deep breath, right? I mean, because he is 6'4", 250 pounds, built like a Greek guy,
right?
And but he is so, it's so great to everybody, man. Making sure everybody is welcome, and came over and shook my hand before he started talking trash to me. He shook my hand and invited me in and all that stuff. But no, I tell you what, man, you can see why a guy like him is so successful because everybody wants to be around him, and he makes everybody feel good.
Last question for you: what was more? I'm not saying unnerving, but fielding a punt with people coming down to hurt you, or catching a pass over the middle back when safeties were allowed to hammer you?
And I'll just say this. I neither one of those things really bothered me because, I mean, it was something that I did my whole life. I mean, from the first game I ever played in football when I was 12 years old, or even back when I was 9 or 10, it was all about me returning punts or whatever. So, and I got to the point with going over the middle where I knew what to do when the pass was, if it was a zone, if it's a cover 2 zone, you got to get to the middle. If it's a cover 3 zone, you got to catch the ball in the hash. So you just have to know if it's man to man, then you can just run across.
Mm-hmm.
And if you knew that, you knew that there was not going to be a big hit waiting for you. If it's cover 4, it just depends on what your front side safety is going to do. If your deep guys on your side, then that front side safety is going to be going. Otherwise, the back side safety is going to be going. So all those kind of things, if you know, it makes it very easy, man. So in all the times I went across the middle, there was only one time that I got blown up. And when I got hit, the guy leveled me. It was Tony Parrish, I think, from Chicago. Mm-hmm. And literally, I was on the ground. The breath is knocked out of me. And the only thing I looked up and said, all I could say was, "You were supposed to be there." So when I looked at the film, we had a running back taking the deep, going deep, and he didn't go with the running back. So he let the running back go free. And he just, so anyway, I say all that to say, I love returning punts. I love going across the middle because I always felt as if I can protect myself by knowing the coverage and knowing where these guys are supposed to be and where I need to be dictated by the coverage.
Tim, thank you so much for responding to my text and also being a part of the show today. It means a lot to us. We've had several Pro Football Hall of Famers and Heisman Trophy winners, but not many that have been both. And you're one of those that's a part of that rare group. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate the time.
Tim Brown, Woodrow Wilson High School. He played all of his career but 1 year. Played with Tampa, but he was with the Oakland LA Raiders. Notre Dame, Heisman Trophy winner, Pro Football Hall of Fame. He did it all.
Yeah. I remember him the night he was inducted in Texas Sports Hall of Fame was great. But But I think I was walking, it might have been the same night as Jerry Jones. I was walking up Jerry Jones, and the late Monsignor Mark Deering, who was a wonderful, wonderful human being who lived here forever and a priest and just a great guy, he was with Tim Brown. And here's a guy who's a huge Notre Dame fan, and like Tim was just, great with him. And Monsignor Deering used to talk about that to me every time we saw him, because he was so, Tim Brown, Notre Dame, just couldn't believe it.
I can imagine that. And when we come back, Greg Tepper, he's a part of Fox Sports Southwest. He's, of course, the, managing editor of Dave Campbell's Texas Football Magazine that Drayton McClain has ownership of. He contacted me a few weeks ago, along with others, to be a part of this committee called UIL 100. I kind of touched on that maybe a month ago, 3 weeks ago. He's going to come on and actually explain what we're trying to do. In his words, Greg Tepper, next on SicEm365 Radio.
Are you in the market for a new home? Are you trying to sell your current home? Well, you need to call my good friend Lance Donaldson and the Donaldson family team at brokered by eXp Realty. Lance is one of the best listeners I know. He's fantastic. He's a great guy. You'll want to hang out with Lance. You'll want to spend time with him, which is good because you're going to have to see a bunch of houses with him to find that perfect house. And you want somebody who's going to listen and find out what you want, what you need, what is the best thing for you and your family. That's what Lance will do for you. Give him a call, 254-214-3713, or visit his webpage for the most current listings, lancedonaldson.exprealty.com.
Ready to get outside? Go where you want to go in a new Jeep from Allen Samuels. Get employee pricing plus for all on new 2020 Gladiators and Wranglers. Put yourself in a new 2020 Grand Cherokee, Compass, Cherokee, or Renegade with 0% for 72 and no payments for up to 120 days. Let's go. Allen Samuels is ready to do business in person or online. Drive forward in a Jeep from Allen Samuels.
Ask for details. All offers with approved credit.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine has their easy-to-access drive-thru open and convenient and clean in-store location on the corner of Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street in Waco. Riverbend Liquor has the best and most extensive variety of craft beer selections in Waco and Balcones whiskey, including single malt, hot still, baby blue, French oak, rye, and brimstone. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, family-owned and operated, in a hidden gem in Waco on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street. And find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physician of Baylor Athletics. Our doctors specialize in the diagnosis and treatment of any and all sports-related injuries. Celebrating over a decade of service in Central Texas, our doctors are equipped to handle a wide range of issues, whether it's your foot or ankle, orthopedic spine care, your hand or wrist, knee and shoulder pain, or if you're in need of our arthritis or total joint clinic. Trust the doctors that Baylor trusts. Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics. Our goal is to get you back in the game.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction with a team of 24 experienced agents who are excited about serving you. Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Do you love Friday Night Lights? Would you like to have a bigger role than just watching the action to ensure the games are played fairly and safely? The Waco football chapter of the Texas Association of Sports Officials, or TASO, can make that happen. The 2020 Texas high school football season is right around the corner, and we need you to be a part of it. There's a shortage of officials across the state in all sports, and you can help. If you love the game and want to be a part of the solution, you can help our local student athletes continue to participate in games they love. Never officiated before? Don't worry. Waco Football Chapter can help and prepare you to make the right call. And right now, Introduction to Football Officiating class is accepting registrations. Make your first grade call today by looking us up and contacting us on Facebook at Waco Football Chapter or at our website, wacofootballchapter.com. Find out more about the Waco Football Chapter of the Texas Association of Sports Officials, or TASO. Go to wacofootballchapter.com.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? by not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Hi, this is Mart High School football coach Kevin Hoffman, and I'm a proud listener and supporter of the all-new SicEm365 radio show with David Smoke, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoke.
Waco, Texas, our city of remarkable growth and opportunity with an even brighter future ahead. What makes it all work is our people living, working, and growing together. And we're proud to be from here, helping and serving the community we call home. We are the First National Bank of Central Texas, taking great pride in being locally owned and operated. Come see us at any of our 5 convenient locations. That's the First National Bank of Central Texas, member FDIC, and equal housing lender.
This is SicEm365 Radio.
Just 27 seconds remaining. Raffiero lines up onside kick. It's a wacky bounce, and it's Javon Williams who gets it to Raffiero. New life for the Bobcats. 9 seconds remaining. Raffiero lines up for a 35-yard field goal. Jordy Martinez, good. Raffiero, what? From dead to rights to the regional final.
I feel like that no matter how much I love covering pretty much everything in sports, that my core that makes my sports heart beat is high school football. And then I really, truly believe, and there's other guys that have felt that way, but I honestly think that for Greg Tepper, it's even at a level that's higher than that, and that's hard to imagine because I love covering high school football. How you doing, my friend?
I'm excellent. It is an illness that we both suffer from. So it's nice to talk to somebody who's also afflicted with that. But I just got to say, okay, so you guys bring me on after Tim Brown. You bring me on after one of the greatest football players of all time. Like, the Rolling Stones just got done playing, and it's like, here's Dexy's Midnight Runner. Yeah. You know, like what am I supposed to do? Like, I don't know. Anyway, what I'm saying is thanks for calling.
Well, no, and I'm glad you're a part of it. I kind of teased this maybe a couple of weeks ago. You had sent an email out to, I think maybe it was 10 or 12 people, maybe more than that, about this project. And Dr. Charles Brydup and the UIL are all over it. You, of course, Dave Campbell's Texas Football Magazine and Fox Sports Southwest, all the things we do. And we finally had a Zoom meeting, which was my first one ever. You are trying to do what is basically, as we are in a committee, the impossible. So let everybody else kind of know how the UIL 100 developed and how we're trying to make it happen.
Yeah, certainly. And so, for those who don't know, the UIL is celebrating, coming up in 2020, the 100th year of UIL high school football. There was football before 1920, but the UIL became the governing body in 1920, and so they're celebrating their centennial this year. And as a result, the UIL is kind of turned to Dave Campbell's Texas Football and said, help us, honor some of the best and brightest and most memorable players and teams and rivalries in the state of Texas. And so that's what we're doing. And so, we've come together and we've put together a panel, a committee. Myself, I'm on it. A number of other names you guys would recognize, guys like Craig Way, guys like Matt Stepp from our staff, guys like the great Joe Lee Smith, who's one of the great Texas high school football historians, Robert Brown from the PVIL Coaches Association, and of course, you, Smokey, you're on it as well. And, it's a who's who of Texas high school football minds. I'm just organizing it. And then we're coming together and we're trying to come up with a list. We're going to come up with a list of 100 years and 100 players, 100 years and 100 teams, and 100 years and 100 rivalries. And that is a big list, because when you talk about something which has the kind of storied history as Texas high school football, there's a big responsibility there, and there's a lot to sift through. And so, it's a big responsibility. I'm thankful that Smokey said yes, because we certainly need all the brain power we can get to put together these things, and we're excited for the final product. We're still in the kind of the nascent stages of it, trying to sort things out, get in kind of phase one of this big lift, but it's something we're really excited about to be part of as far as Campbell's Texas football, and then obviously, on behalf of the UIL who are trying to honor, the centennial celebration of high school football.
So you're not going for 100 things. You're going for 300 things.
Yeah, it's 3 different 100 lists, which is, its own thing. And that's the thing is there's a lot of different tentacles to this, because on one hand, I think it would be easy to become prisoners of the moment. And that's something I've tried really, really hard, to avoid. I think it's really easy to fill up this 100 player list with guys who have played since 2000, right? To fill it up just with the Kyler Murrays and the Jonathan Grays, and certainly they're going to be in consideration, but you got to make sure you consider all these years. And then you go back to, down in y'all's neck of the woods, you go back to some of those teams in Waco in the 1920s.
Yep.
I mean, you're talking about some of the most dominant high school football teams of all time. Actually, not to spoil something, but I spoke with Dave Campbell yesterday about that. We were talking about the Centennial thing, and he said that, he just in his historical memory, he goes, 1927 Waco is going to be one of those teams that always sticks in my brain. It was always told to me as one of the greatest high school football teams. So it's our job to make sure we sift through it, and we're honoring teams not just that are fantastic from the past 30 years, but teams from the past 100.
Got to tell you, who do we have on from 83 Dangerfield the other day?
Well, we had David Mims.
Yeah.
Steve, we've had a few, and that was a team that I was able to be around as well.
But Mims got fired up.
Yeah.
Over it.
David Mims, actually, I don't think he was actually on the team, but he was like a freshman. But, yeah, no, and then we had Santana Dotson, who played on the 85 Houston Yates, and, of course, then he played at Baylor with some of the guys that were on 83 Dangerfield and went back and forth, like Thomas Everett. No, Everett was on 82. He was not on 83, but you get the gist, yeah.
Yeah, and that's what's going to be so interesting to me, and I think what makes it so fun is that there are some of these teams that immediately, if I say to high school football fans, I say, who are the greatest high school football teams you've ever seen? There are a few that are going to spring to mind. I know 83 Dangerfield is one that always comes up. Obviously after the aftermath was not great, but that 88 Carter team was unbelievable, right?
Mm-hmm.
You go back to some of those teams. From Wichita Falls, we talk about Waco High, Salina, the dynasties, some of those South Lake Carroll teams, some of those Lake Travis teams, some of those Katy teams. But what I'm really interested in is, I think spots, this is just me spitballing here. I think spots 1 through about 70 are going to be a lot of teams people have heard of. And I think what could be really interesting for high school football fans whenever we do, release this, it's going to be during the course of the season from what I understand. Whenever we do releases is I feel like people are going to learn a lot about teams that maybe they just never heard of that were unbelievable for their time, that that deserve that kind of recognition. The 83 Dangerfield. This is a spoiler alert. I think they're probably going to make the list. It's not my final say, but I think they're going to have a good shot at it.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say that I think what will be interesting is when you get down to those other kind of teams that maybe players have never heard of, or maybe younger people have never heard of teams from the 40s and the 50s that deserve recommendation, and players too. Those types of things as well. That's I think what's going to be really fun about putting together these lists and these honors.
Greg, was there any other ideas that you guys tossed around as far as, you ended up with the 3 categories, but did you start off with one and then go, oh, no, we need to add this one and this one, or did you start off with 5 and go, well, maybe we don't need these 2? How did that kind of process work?
Yeah, we were in talks with the UIL and trying to figure out exactly how they wanted to honor it, and you have to balance it, right? Because you want to make sure you're honoring as many different things as possible, but also there are other lists that are just going to be so darn difficult. I'll give you an example. I think that for a moment there, we kicked around the idea of doing 100 games, right? 100 greatest high school football games. And again, I asked you, what are the greatest high school football games you've ever seen? And there are a couple that immediately, they're in your mind right now. You're thinking of them. But the thing about that is there is a lot of lift that goes into that before the advent of television, I think that there would be an inherent bias towards, modern games as opposed to you go back to, the first state championship game between Houston Heights and Cleburne was, I believe, a scoreless tie. I don't know anybody who was at that game, but I bet that it would certainly, if you're talking about impact, that certainly deserves to be on there as much as, say, 2018 North Shore and Duncanville.
Yeah.
The difference is that it was on television. And so we kind of went away from that. I know that there are going to be some other celebrations that I think the UIL wants to consider in maybe in partnership with the Texas High School Coaches Association as far as honoring coaches. But we did land on these three categories because I think that the other part of that is the rivalries aspect. And you want to talk about the real lifeblood of Texas high school football. It's that Week 9 game that you've had circled all year long that you're saying, all right, we're going to go and get them. And that's what I'm really excited about digging into, because I think there are a lot of rivalries out there that you know your local one, but then if you zoom out and you look down to some other far-flung parts of the state, you go to the Rio Grande Valley or El Paso, there are some blood feuds or small towns that you don't even know what county they're in. I mean, there are some big-time matchups that I'm really excited to kind of bring those to fore and give people an opportunity to learn a little bit about those.
This has been fun for me, and it's an honor, and I said this to both Paul and Craig and the audience when I mentioned it, kind of teased it, because, I mean, it's been amazing. And Joe Lee Smith, who's got his site with all the history, and but, every time you bring up a category, I immediately think of a game. And you're right, even though I experienced some of them because I'm old, there are so many others that we don't know about, and games or teams or whatever. Like, I keep trying to let everyone understand, obviously 83 Dangerfield, 85 Yates, 88 Carter. There's been the Katy team most recently, and of course, but I keep thinking about the Big Sandy run with Overstreet and Lovey Smith and Bobby Mitchell and all those guys, and Cookie Mitchell, whatever. And what they did, some of the crazy numbers they put up in the mid-'70s, and it's just on and on and on.
Well, what I think is going to be a challenge for you and I, Smokey, and the rest of the committee is whenever you get down to the players aspect of it, there's going to be a real temptation, and I have to speak freely here. It can be a real temptation to do a lot of quarterbacks, right? A lot of quarterbacks,
sure.
A lot of running backs, a lot of receivers. But how many of the best players this state have ever put out are offensive linemen? A lot. How many are defensive backs who maybe don't have those incredible stats because they weren't throwing the ball anywhere near them? A lot. And so that's kind of, I've thought about what are going to be the challenges for us and for this committee as far as putting together the list of players. It's making sure, yes, of course, there are going to be some quarterbacks and running backs. Earl Campbell's probably going to have a say on this list. But we got to make sure we're honoring those big boys in the trenches too. Make sure they get their due, because certainly that's going to be a challenge for us to make sure we sift through and honor some of the very best who maybe didn't grab the headlines at the time.
Greg, what's kind of the feel around the Dave Campbell's Texas football offices right now? I know obviously you guys probably aren't in the office; you're at home like everybody else, but. Just what kind of a pulse or a sense are you getting from the high school football coaches out there as far as, where we are and what we're looking at moving forward?
Yeah, certainly. Well, we're working on the 2020 summer edition of Dave Campbell's Texas Football. We actually send this bad boy to press, all 400 pages of it, 2 weeks from tomorrow. So if I sound very tired, it's because of that. But I will say that when you talk with high school football coaches, I think that there is a cautious optimism about football coming back here in the fall. I think that, they are preparing as if they are. And one of the interesting questions that when I've had an opportunity to talk with coaches who, by the way, are just suddenly very available for interviews. But when you talk with coaches, one of the questions I'm always asking them is how are you staying connected to your guys? Because, you guys know this as well as anybody, that for those high school football coaches, calling plays X's and O's is about 2% of their job. And a lot of the other job is just being there for their guys. Being, in a lot of ways, these guys are our father figures, they're mentors, they're confidants for these players. And so what's been really interesting is talking with these guys who have tried to stay in touch with their kids and making sure they're doing their home, make sure they're doing their work packet at home and things like that. I spoke recently to Jamarcus Ashley, the head coach at Calvert, there in small town and a local legend there himself. He's the head coach there. And I asked him how he's staying in touch, and he's like, I'm trying to keep up with these guys and hop on these Zoom calls, figure things out, just make sure they're staying out of trouble, things like that. And he goes, the other thing that you think about is with these guys out of school, a lot of kids rely on that for meals. And he goes, I can't. I think the direct quote is, I can't get them steak and shrimp, but bologna and bread, I can get them that. And so that really speaks to these high school football coaches, that they're not just. I think there's a temptation for us to think about them a couple of times during the off season and then on 10 Friday nights in the fall. But these guys are constant presences in their kids' lives, and that's been a challenge for them to make sure they're maintaining that touchstone with those kids. To make sure that not only, yes, that they're getting ready for the fall and they're installing schemes and things like that, but also that they're just okay and that they're staying safe and that they're staying healthy and trying to get through these circumstances.
It will be fun to see because what we have is Greg sent us 3 links. We go on there as many times as we want. I think it's like 50 at a time. The best teams, the best players, the best rivalries. I'm supposed to do the rivalries at some point tonight. I've done the others. And about the time I think I'm over, then I think of like Greg Roberts at Nacogdoches. So there's an offensive lineman because those are the positions, as you said, or T.J. Turner at Lufkin, or names that, my gosh, it's never ending. It is absolutely. Is this going into a computer that like tabulates? How is that happening?
I don't know. I mean, we'll figure it out right now. The first phase is just, as I explained to y'all, first phase is let's get a big list. Let's just get a big old stinking list that even if you don't think they're going to make the 100, like let's consider them. Like let's put them because they deserve that. They deserve a hearing. They deserve a consideration for this honor. And are they all going to make it? No, we're going to have to narrow it down at that point. But this is kind of the fun part. The fun part is just remembering all these guys and making sure that they get their moment for us to consider a spot on these teams to consider a spot on these lists. Then comes the really not fun part, which is then you have to trim these guys and get this down to 100, which I'm not looking forward to that. But I don't have to think about that right now. This is the fun part. I choose to relish in the fun part right now of remembering all these fantastic players who played in the state of Texas.
You good? Thank you, Greg. We appreciate you upping the ante from Tim Brown to Greg Tepper in this 5 o'clock hour.
You know what? You play some of the Rolling Stones songs. You bet Dexy's Midnight Runners, and you've got yourself, people dancing and sing along.
Yeah. Thank you.
I'm telling you, man. Just give me a guitar, and I'll bust out "Come On, Eileen" and whatever their other song was.
Greg Tepper, Fox Sports Southwest, again, managing editor of Dave Campbell's Texas Football Magazine, with us. Thanks for your time, Greg Tepper. It's the UIL 100. We're putting together. We got online to get all this done. And then eventually we'll have this big stinking list, as he said, and we'll kind of weed it out to get to where we can be. And it's just an almost impossible task, but the state of Texas deserves it. This is SicEm365 Radio.
0% for 84 months continues at Richard Carr. 2020 GMC Sierras, Yukons, Acadias, Terrains, Canyons, and the lineup of Buick SUVs are all 0% for 84 months for qualified buyers. And right now, Richard Carr Motors is overloaded with used cars and trucks. With over 120 now in stock, they must move some of these vehicles right now. Richard Carr has over 30 used trucks in stock, all at low inventory overload prices. That's great prices. And also, in addition to their great prices, free oil changes with a new purchase and in-town priority warranty service all comes with your purchase at Richard Carr Buick GMC Cadillac. Richard Carr Motors are the people you can count on. A local family dealer run by Baylor Bear alumni. They want the chance to earn your business. So stop by the Daily Disinfected showroom and see their safety-focused staff, or they will bring the car to your home for a test drive. Your comfort and safety is Richard Carr's first priority. Find them at richardcarr.com or at Highway 6, the Imperial exit.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas. Our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. In today's world, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs. We even offer financing. Everything's included in the price, and more importantly, you'll not get a bill in the mail later on. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule an appointment safely from home, online in minutes at idealmri.com, or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI. And please remember to follow CDC guidelines and practice social distancing. Stay home, except for the essentials, and be safe, and together we'll get through this at idealmri.com.
Our communities are facing unprecedented times. At At Boozer's Jewelers, we care about you and your way to get the most value from your unwanted jewelry. At Boozer's Jewelers, we buy all kinds of unused jewelry. So give us a call and let us give you peace of mind and cash for your unwanted or unused jewelry.
Live crawfish is back. The 30-pound bags of live crawfish, as delicious as you can imagine, back at Waco Custom Marketplace at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco. $3 a pound, 30-pound live crawfish bags are available. You order by Thursday at noon. You can pick up your customized order anytime on Friday afternoon until 6 p.m. And the drive-thru now open at Waco Custom Marketplace Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. You can still order what you want from their butcher shop, including beef and poultry, seafood, and also pork. And, of course, their bakery. You can order from their bakery. You can go online, WacoCustomMarketplace.com, or go by the drive-thru. Waco Custom Marketplace, live crawfish available Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 6. You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
This is SicEm365 Radio. The SicEm365 Radio text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
All right. Tomorrow, one of our guests, Carol Dawson, former general manager of the Houston Rockets, played at Baylor. He's in Houston. He's going to join us tomorrow. And one of the things that's going to get him riled up, and when you ask him, I spoke with him for a little bit. He's a great friend of John McClain. He's from East Texas, and I remember having him on a couple of – I think he might be from Alba, Texas, which is Alba Golden High School.
Who's this again?
Carol Dawson.
I just wanted to double check on that.
Yeah, Carroll, like a regular, and then Dawson, Dawson. I want to think he's from East, because I interviewed him a few times when I was over there too, but – I asked him about had he been watching The Last Dance. Well, that's a hot button if you're a Rockets fan.
Mm-hmm.
Because the three-peat in the middle of that was the two-peat, the back-to-backs by the Rockets, and Rocket fans are very, very, very sensitive about this because, if Jordan wouldn't have left or whatever. He has a couple of things he wanted to say about that. He's not saying that they would have won both if Jordan had stayed. It's just a pretty good fact that he put together.
Well, yeah, that is a hot debate, because if you want to get under the Rockets fans' skin, well, now you just make fun of the Astros, because that's the easy thing to do for Houston sports fans. But, yeah, you bring up those two titles that they won, sandwiched in between the staggered six-peat of the Bulls, and that'll get a good little sports conversation going. But I did double-check on Carroll Dawson, a.k.a. Big Orange, and he was born in Alba. And, just kind of looking through his page, he was stationed at Fort Knox when he joined the Army, or was drafted into the Army following college. And then after being stationed there, he's the Baylor head coach. So, I just double-checking on the Alba thing. But, yeah, that Rockets conversation, that is one that people will fight you over for sure.
Well, and look, The Last Dance kind of illustrates how, I don't know if the Bulls win all those, the state that Michael was in.
Right.
I mean, if he doesn't want to play anymore, and he I mean, you saw how it was. It just he was as long as he could be at this certain level, that's what he was going to do.
Well, and I will say, too, about the Rockets, they were good against the Bulls.
Yeah.
Like, they were really
That's
good.
what he said.
Yeah.
That he was saying, well, we couldn't guard Michael, but they couldn't guard
But you're telling me that,
Hakeem Olajuwon.
and all due respect to our guests the other day, Will Perdue and Bill Wennington and Luke Longley, are they going to stop Olajuwon?
No.
And
Bill Cartwright.
And look, the Bulls didn't have Dennis Rodman
He was
until after that.
Yep.
So, and Horace Grant was gone. He left during that time. So,
how about the part in the when Drexler popped off a little bit about Jordan before the series against Portland and made him pay? The chip he has on his shoulder and the things he would make up. And I think Tiger has all of this in his blood too, and especially when he was younger, how they can almost produce a chip on their shoulder.
well, and there was the thing that Jordan said he made it up.
Remember George Karl was at dinner?
Yeah.
And Michael, he didn't say anything to Michael Jordan, and Karl had to come back out and kind of explain that. I mean, he literally...
He did on Twitter, right? He came out and explained it,
Why he didn't say anything.
Yeah.
He didn't want to give him any ammunition. And then what ended up happening is he gave him anyways because he felt disrespected. And so it's like no matter what you did, you were disrespecting Michael.
Oh, you're looking with me your left eye and your right eye.
Yeah.
Your right hand is not...
Well, when you are better than everyone, hands down, you have to sometimes invent some things.
Yeah, there wasn't, and I don't know, it was such a different time because sports radio was still really in its infancy. It was just getting started early 90s, basically, and there weren't all of these debate shows that rehashed the same argument over and over again. Hey, let's talk about LeBron versus Michael one more time because we never get to an answer, but hey, people seem to care about this, but... Back then, I know you had Magic and you had Bird, and those guys, their careers were winding down at that point, but was there really an argument versus Michael?
No.
There was no argument.
There wasn't. And the reason I think this is good to inform that debate that'll never die is that now this generation that just heard about Michael can really see, this is what he was doing. He was grinding out. Michael created Kobe and LeBron. There's no Kobe and LeBron without Michael.
Right.
Michael changed the whole thing, which is why people from my era will always think he's the greatest. And people will think Kobe or LeBron, are up there with him, and they're close. But to me, he was the guy who changed everything.
Yeah.
Across sports and across the world. You can look at it, to me, I look at it in four phases. Babe Ruth was the first guy who kind of made sports to where it wasn't just people sitting around and enjoying a ball game.
He was the first celebrity.
He was the first celebrity, really. The first sports star. And I know that there were some guys before him that were popular, but Babe was the first worldwide sports star. And then you had a bunch of people that were all great, DiMaggio and Mantle and all that. But then Muhammad Ali changed sports in that they became guys who were more than just a boxer or more than a baseball player. They were their own thing. And then Michael came along after some great players in the NBA and then made that whole thing. And then, really, I think maybe that might be the era because Tiger, LeBron, everybody after that is living in Michael's creation of that athlete.
I really wish we could talk about LeBron without it inevitably turning into MJ stuff because I think they're great and different on their own levels, and they're at the same level of celebrity and Hollywood and star status. But, yeah, LeBron lives in a different era where, as focused on as he is, it'll never be what it was like for Jordan in the 90s. Like it wasn't for Jordan what it was like for, Bill Russell back in the day or whoever. It was always different, but there was something about being a 90s kid, because that's when I primarily grew up, that I'll never adequately really be able to explain to future generations of just how popular Michael Jordan was, in the game of basketball. And not even in the game of basketball, but the movies with Space Jam and the cologne and the shoes and Gatorade and Wheaties and, just all of that stuff. It was something else.
I have not enjoyed... I say that I'm not knocking their product. It's just my personal taste. Eating McDonald's in a long, long time.
Yeah.
But I remember in that era when they would have Michael Jordan things at McDonald's, my sister loved it because she was much, much younger than me.
Yeah.
She's your age. So, I'm 13 and she's 7, And so I want to go eat somewhere. We got to compromise. So if we went to McDonald's, I would be like, oh, yeah, they've got Michael Jordan stuff. Let's go to McDonald's. Fine.
All right.
Let's get the Michael Jordan commemorative glass. I'll muscle it down.
Yeah.
So
yeah, he was attached to everything, and that was cool. But LeBron's taking it to another level himself, and a lot of other guys have as well. Because you do have outside of just LeBron, you got KD, you got all these other guys, but. That'll be a fascinating conversation because going back to where we started here, I know that Rockets fans, that irks them a little bit when they start hearing about, well, you only got 2 titles because Mike went and played baseball. That's something that Carol Dawson will be able to address a lot better than we can.
And again, Clyde Drexler was the guy who kind of helped the Rockets get over that hump, and Jordan, always played well against Clyde, but who knows? Again,
wish we could have seen it now. We wish we could have seen like a full-blown championship series, Rockets and Bulls back like in 1995. That would have been perfect.
You know who hates the Rockets of those eras? The Knicks and the Magic.
Yeah.
Because they finally didn't have to deal with the Bulls and they had to deal with the Rockets.
Yep.
Yeah, no, and
one problem was another.
Yeah.
Houston beat New York one year, and the other year was Orlando.
Yeah, because
baby
Shaq could not
Hardaway.
They had Shaq, and they thought like Shaq was so different than Olajuwon because Olajuwon was so smooth and graceful, and Shaq was just a tank.
And by the way, it's a completely different subject, but is Olajuwon still, despite all of his acclaim and fame, one of the most underrated players of all time?
Oh, yeah. Olajuwon and Tim Duncan fall in the same category to me because they weren't, there's nothing flashy about them.
Right.
Off the court.
I feel like Olajuwon gets forgotten about a little bit, and then eventually his name comes up, and people are like, oh, yeah, of course he's in that conversation, but it takes a little while for his name to get brought up sometimes.
Yeah, to me, he and Tim Duncan live in that category of where you can easily forget about them because there was no flash to them. Mm-hmm. It was all substance.
It was a dream shake.
Yeah. Keep Olajuwon. I really just felt for him when I saw him at Houston.
Yeah.
I love the fact that he didn't talk. Not that I don't some guys that are trash talkers I don't like or do like, but there are some that I do. Okay. Tim Brown, Greg Tepper, Max Olson, Mickey Spagnola,
Cooper Jones
from the Texas Sports Hall of Fame. Tomorrow, 9 o'clock in the morning, they'll reopen their doors. Tomorrow, Grayson Grundhoefer will have Philip Epps, former NFL player that's the uncle of Deontay, one of our producers. Carol Dawson will join us tomorrow. There's a couple of others. We'll get into that. But thanks to all of our guests today. Thanks to Dylan Chapman, Craig, and Paul. Thanks to, again, all of our sponsors from start to finish. But don't forget, download the app brought to you by Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram, the title sponsor, Ideal MRI, and everyone else. We're going to just got a couple of new businesses that want to come on. Can't wait to get them on as well. I'm David Smoke. Thank you for listening whenever you do, however long it might be, and good night.